breeds greatness. The thing that was happening over the border must have spurred them on a little bit. Also, going to Portugal, their man didn't
two of them
harm them. Two of them, yeah.
Two of them. Their best 2 players that year. I mean, that team had loads of great players on it, but Tompkins was the best footballer in the country that season.
After it certainly seemed that way. That's it. Look back, not forward, is what I say when it comes to provincial finals.
Wow. 1987.
A look down memory lane there with Ger and Eoin talking the provincial championships. Coming up next, OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. It's live from 7:30.
Sexton push Ireland back into a 9-point advantage. Pull that slightly, more than slightly. It's a bad miss from one of the best kickers in the world. Dupont, Teddy Thomas, space in front of Thomas. He could go through the middle here. Teddy Thomas for the line, and over he goes. Try for France, and the lead is won. Lost now. Last ounces of reserve are being eked out now. They're leaving nothing behind them, this Ireland team, in a bid to force the opening, but neither are the French.
On est à la 83e face à l'Irlande. Henderson.
The point at which a drop goal becomes possible.
Attention le drop, il arrive.
Sexton from outside the 10-metre line.
Sexton waits, here it comes.
It's spinning, it's spinning.
It looks good.
Le drop de Jonathan Sexton.
Right below his arm, goes out.
Jonathan Sexton has made it.
Il est là. Jonathan Sexton à la dernière seconde crucifie l'équipe de France.
Ireland have stolen the game.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Background there, yeah, happy times for Irish Rugby in the background there with Johnny Sexton and Le Drop. Are there any big moments in the future for Irish Rugby? Let's cross over now to the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Fukuoka, where a couple of the players are sitting down for the latest Irish Rugby press conference. Joey Carbery and Iain Henderson are up first. Let's join them now.
Yeah, I suppose with the injury, the time of the injury just before we left, and the nature of it as well, it was always going to be a bit of a frustration. But to be honest, I was lucky enough to even be considered and did enough to get onto the plane. So it's been pretty good, to be honest. I'm happy to be here.
What position are you training?
Did a bit at 10 today, which is the position I play, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Is there any looking at what's come half? It seemed like you were just come half last week. Obviously fullback. Are you looking at these, or is that something that you're still keeping your hand in?
If I need to, if there's a certain break in a training where I'm needed to go in at 9 or 15 or something like that, then I get the tap on the shoulder, but it's up to the coaches really. They're the ones who are kind of instigating where I'm playing. So happy to be playing at 10, and it's a position I love. So it's good to get reps in that.
In terms of that injury and that little setback as we described next week, do you feel that you're at 100% at this stage, and you can put all the kind of disappointment and frustration over what's been a long period of time, all the way back to February, you can put those behind you against tomorrow's weekend?
Yeah, hopefully. It has been quite a frustrating year with injuries and stuff, but no, I think I'm fully back now, and I feel back to myself as I was. So that's a huge confidence boost for me, and I suppose I can get back out there and do what I've been doing.
You said about being lucky to have been on the plane, and the coaches have shed that faith in you, and you have to recover from that injury. Now you are ready to go again. Do you feel like it's time to sort of repay that faith?
Yeah, definitely. They showed a lot of faith in me, and I'm very grateful for it. So I want to go out and do the job and show them that they weren't wrong. So yeah, definitely, it's in the back of my mind.
Besides injury, were you in the form of your career in the gap in between, or what a bit?
Yeah, I think things were falling into place. It was I was getting a lot of game time, and I was kind of getting to the swing of things. So the injuries were a bit frustrating, but it just shows that with game time and consistency at the position I'm playing at, then I can get a lot better. So hopefully now, touch wood, everything I stay injury free and kind of push on from there.
Do you feel like you're getting at 10 because that run from January or right through to Munster, it's just a half. You talked a bit about how you evolved in that half of that period.
I think it was pretty good to kind of play week in, week out at 10, as you can kind of get a feel for the players around you and know what works with them, what doesn't work. So being able to do that and getting a feel for people around me, and then for my own game, just being able to see things a bit earlier as a 10 is pretty key. And then I suppose your decision making always improves. Like, you make a mistake in training, you can rectify it and not let it happen on Saturday. So I think learning from little mistakes here and there in training or in games has really helped me kind of not to happen again.
How did you feel the stint against Japan on the pitch actually went for you personally?
I was a bit rusty, I felt. It was obviously very tough though. Japan were putting us under immense pressure, and they kind of closed all our options off and suffocated us a bit. So huge credit to them, because we couldn't really do much about it. So yeah, it was pretty disappointing, and obviously to come out on the wrong end of it was pretty tough to take.
It's easy for us, like watching games back, slowing it down, replaying. There was a moment maybe where he included the potential pass. Was that one you look back on where Rob was outside early, or is that just too much pressure on by the shot?
There was a lot of pressure, and to be honest, I didn't feel like it was on. And looking back on it, I didn't really want to shovel a bad pass, or I didn't want to put Rob under unnecessary pressure. So I just thought the best thing would be to kind of regroup and go from there. There's a lot of things you can go back and change if you could, but I suppose in the heat of the battle, and it's pretty tough. Going back, I probably still wouldn't have passed. I think it was man on. And I was a bit closer to the forwards than he was, so I didn't really want to isolate anyone.
What was going through your head, Joey, in the very last play when you kicked the ball out?
Well, I knew we had the bonus points still secured. The ball kind of came quickly enough to me. There wasn't too much on. And at the time, I just thought it would be the best thing to put it out. So,
why did you kick it so long?
Because I thought the ref had said advantage, so I was wondering, was he going to bring it back? But I put it out. Didn't want to kick it dead. Didn't want to. Suppose it looks a bit better when you kick it longer.
So do you feel like it's the right call now? You had a chance to look at what the options were.
Yeah, I think so. We were pretty tired, and like I said, there wasn't too much options on. I didn't want to do anything silly as well, where maybe they get the ball back and take the bonus point away from us. So that was kind of my thinking.
Yeah. Just if I can bring Ian into it, just after a stormer, obviously, against Scotland, what's your take been on your own World Cup?
After Scotland was okay. I think we had a decent performance. I think we, after we looked at the reviews of it, we definitely find things we could work on and get better. Obviously, Japan didn't quite go to plan the way we wanted it to. In terms of personally, obviously, wasn't overly delighted with the performance there. I'm sure you could ask a lot of players in the squad, and then after a result like that, no one's really feeling up after it. And then, obviously, against Russia there, it's good to get the win. However, probably missed a few opportunities we've looked at. The conditions obviously weren't ideal, but they weren't ideal for them either. So we just have to ensure that when we do get opportunities, we do take them.
This is the most last game of the tournament, but what have you seen from them so far? How dangerous proposition are they going to be on Saturday?
Yeah, just asking Joey there, we saw actually Samoa tried to play at the end of the game there. That just gives you. And then Japan actually ended up getting the bonus point. But that gives you an idea of what Samoa are looking to do. They're looking to play from absolutely anywhere at any time. So that's something that we're going to have to be fully aware of. They're going to be ultra excited to get the ball in their hand. And they're obviously going to be looking to try and do as much damage as possible. I think if you look at the way Japan started the game against us, I think that'll definitely be an indication of what Samoa will be trying to do. I think they'll... we've reviewed quite a few of their players already, and we think that throughout their pack and their whole back line, there are threats all over the pitch, and we just have to be very wary of that and not do anything out of the ordinary for us.
Ian, did you feel the heat in the second half of that game, as in we took in diesel, and also do you feel like the conditions change? That won't be facing more?
Yeah, I think every game we've played in, the conditions have been different, difficult but different. That Japan game, definitely the air did feel heavy almost, and at times difficult to get a breath. And that's probably a combination of, I don't know, heat, humidity, tiredness, being a very fast-paced game. So a number of those factors have played a part. But like I just said there about the previous team, it's the same conditions for them. So you can either front up and adapt to what the conditions are, or look back at them as an excuse.
What's that like? Is it just like hell when you're gone on hell?
It's just trying to get a breath, and we've had a few training sessions out in brutal enough conditions in the middle of the day, and I think it's kind of one of the things that we had tried to prepare for back home, with the water loss, being dehydrated and sweating a lot, warm weather camps, but nothing is quite compared to what it has been.
You make the condition goes as well, like forwards basically. I never saw in Scotland why you can do in the type 5 and just really time, but like a lot of the teams are having more success in those conditions, so we get involved very, very quickly at the back.
Yeah, I think us playing Scotland, maybe it might have been kind of both teams trying to do a similar thing, where you come up against a team that is trying to play it a bit wider, and maybe if you're not that we weren't ready for it, but if you're maybe not as prepared for it, you don't have the best outcome. A lot of teams do. The teams that are throwing it around a bit seem to be getting a bit more of the interesting play, let's say. But generally, people do throw it a bit to be a little bit more interesting.
Andy said that you can tell it's getting into the business end of the World Cup now. Just wondered, you talked about the personal best maybe in the gym and stuff this week. Have you noticed the dynamics change a bit? Has it ramped up a bit this week?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that. Obviously, when you get towards the back end of the World Cup, obviously it's all knockouts. But for us, I kind of feel like that's almost started maybe a week earlier than we potentially would have liked it to, which is obviously up to all the intensity across kind of trainings, meetings, reviews. You see everyone putting in a wee bit of extra time just here and there, whether it be a bit of video analysis or a bit of extras in the gym before we're about to pitch, just to kind of making sure everyone's right and everyone's getting as nailed on as possible for the weekend. And you can feel that having built throughout the weeks, and then I suppose all we can hope for is that this all comes to fruition at the weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
As part of the press conference in the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Fukuoka, there'll be a replacement now. As Owen turning off his mic and stuff. We'll be back over later on because we think that we're going to have one of the coaching ticket, probably Simon Easterby, up in just a couple of minutes' time. Part of that press conference will be embargoed, and we'll bring you the bits that aren't embargoed. So, low key enough from the two lads there. Nothing earth-shattering at this stage.
No. I was on here yesterday morning, and they did a press conference as well on. So the two lads, they do look. These lads at press conference, they never look all that happy to be there.
No.
I'm just wondering as well, did the players chat about, like, after the press conference, are they like, I wonder is that the line that the papers will hook onto tomorrow, because the papers are looking for something from these. I mean, I think the Star today has a headline from Andy Farrell yesterday, which is winning is all that matters.
Yeah.
And like that's how anodyne these press conferences can be. And
the one of the hot times is decision making is key for red cards. It's like everybody's going, can we not just fast forward to the bit where we know we're either at least in the quarterfinals or we're not in the quarterfinals?
Yeah. I saw, like, Carbery was asked about where was he training, obviously, and he said he was training at out half. But there's not. They're probably savvy enough in terms of their answers. But they look like they're kind of in front of a parole here, and don't they, at these things?
They do. Simon Easterby is out and sitting down and in his seat, and I think we can cross back over. Can we cross back over? Okay, we're told to give us a minute. So Simon Easterby is nearly ready. There we go. You can see him sitting there. He's not ready yet. But Simon Easterby is very pronounced talent at not giving anything away. He is like
really selling this press conference.
He could be in the Dublin setup.
Yeah.
At this stage, you'd be happy to put him out. All right, here we go. Here's Simon Easterby.
Quickly in this part of the world in terms of where the systems can travel. We are playing here against Samoa on Saturday until we're otherwise informed, and that's how we prepared all week and how we're still preparing. To be honest, we may know more later on. We may know more a little bit more tomorrow, but as far as we're concerned, we're planning to take on Samoa here in Fukuoka.
Fitness-wise, is this the strongest squad that you can able to pick from?
Yeah, I think it was only Geordie who has done really well to recover, and he's done a bit of running today and yesterday. He's the only one that has missed out on training, and he hopes to train Thursday. So we're in pretty good shape at this stage.
What are you looking for from Saturday?
Well, a win would be the first and foremost. I think there's certain elements in our game against Russia that we'd like to think we could have done better, but we have to be prepared to deal with a real physical Samoan side, a side that have shown in parts to be really good, and they'll want to finish the tournament on a high and feel like maybe they haven't quite hit their straps as we feel we maybe haven't quite hit ours. Probably since the Scotland game and maybe the first 20 minutes of the Japan game. So there's so much to play for. There's obviously the potential of a World Cup quarter final for us to play for, and I think at the moment we're just thinking about getting our house in order and making sure that we perform to our best, and we have to deal with a physical and abrasive and very talented Samoan team to do that.
You already mentioned that the basics just weren't there for the Russian game and possibly the Japanese game. That what Ireland has exactly themselves on in previous games they were missing. Has that been something you've concentrated on in the past week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's always elements to your game which you feel are fundamental to success, and I think some of those things we didn't get right in the latter part of the Japanese match, and then in large parts of the Russian game. I think the conditions will hopefully be a little bit better. I know it doesn't always look like it from the stands or from the TV, but it was tough going, and you've seen other games played there, the England-USA game, and I think the Samoa and Scotland game. There's a lot of handling errors in that stadium, and the conditions were difficult to play in. But I think we can also be better at the fundamentals of our game and make sure that we get our set piece right. It starts from that, and make sure that we get quality ball. Both sides of the ball, we have a real crack at them when they've got the ball, but we've got our fundamentals in place when we have the ball, so that we can get on the front foot and we can put them under a lot of pressure.
How does this current pack stack up against the two packs you played in at the 03 and 07 World Cup?
I'd love to be playing in it myself, to be honest. It's it's a good mix of brawn and brains, and I think these days players they expect more. They want to know more. They've got a bigger capacity to learn and to kind of learn and have knowledge of things that they're doing. Why are they doing it? What's the rationale behind it? Maybe in the past when I was playing, we weren't quite as informed, or maybe we didn't ask as many questions. But I think that puts a real challenge for us as coaches, me and Fiki in particular up front. It's no 2 days are the same. We've got a great bunch of guys who work incredibly hard, but they also are smart and they want to know. And once they've got a good understanding of things, then they'll grab that and run with it. And that's what I like about this group. There's a real good competitive nature as well, and that's Irish through and through, isn't it? But in this group, there's a real good competitive nature. Scrum session today was it was tasty. There was there's a little bit going on in there, and that's what you want. You need those types of sessions, and you need that competitive edge. And this forward pack, I think, has that.
Is the challenge the same as it ever was? We're going to come up against bigger, stronger teams that are supposed to be able to overpower.
Yeah, I guess we've always fallen into that bracket maybe, and I'd certainly like to think that because of those elements of smarts and understanding and the knowledge, you've still got to bring the physicality, and no game is won without that. So we still have to be able to have an emotional edge and the ability to play at a level that physically can beat teams, and we've done that in the past. We haven't done it every week, and that's a challenge for all of us to make sure that we're in the right place. I think this week feels different. It feels like we've had a couple of days after we played Russia, we had a couple of days off, and the players had a chance to refresh and recharge their batteries, step away from the sort of rugby for a couple of days, and yesterday and today training's been good, and there's been a real edge. And I think that's something that you feel like that there's a little bit of a change in the mood as well in the group.
Simon, as a pack, obviously, some of the guys will return to the starting team, assume from the Japan game. So as a group, then will they feel like it's their chance to put some things right? And if you channel the frustrations in the right way, can you see the best performance of this one so far from that?
You'd like to think so. I think Johnny said it sort of last week. There were a few elements that we didn't quite get right. I think our scrum has been good, and I think that's been an effective weapon. We've had a couple of more opportunities that we didn't quite nail. One for a penalty against us for sort of disconnecting, but we had a good setup. We had some good outfield mauls where we got a little bit of success at sort of changing the picture a little bit in defence. So I think if we can bring all that together this weekend, along with the quality ball carrying, the quality work in the contact area on the attack side, then I think we'll find we'll hopefully find a different animal on Saturday. But Samoa won't just roll over and allow us to do that. We know. We've seen how tough they can be in large parts of their games, and that presents a challenge in itself. So it's going to be physical. We've got to be at the right place emotionally, but we've also got to have our smarts and our sort of game understanding that allow us to get through those periods when things don't go away.
Simon, Ian was just saying a moment ago that Ireland had greater success against Scotland because it's a style of play that they're used to playing. That when Ireland fought against a side of play that they play themselves, they have greater success. Is that something you go along with?
I think you naturally have you have more familiarity with the Scots. You have more familiarity with teams from the Northern Hemisphere. So I guess in that sense, someone like Samoa presents a slightly different challenge in that they can carry, they can offload, they can pull something out of the bag which maybe we don't see quite as much of in the Northern Hemisphere. So yeah, I guess in that sense it poses a slightly different challenge to maybe playing against another Six Nations team who we play more regularly, as opposed to playing a Pacific Island team who are very dangerous but also very physical.
Have you got any concerns about the pitch last game? Caught up pretty noticeably, and obviously there was wet weather and tension more rain from.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we have looked at that, and I think it's very little you can do about that, but it's certainly something that we're aware of. The training pitch we're on is also a little bit is cut up a little bit as well, so maybe that's good prep.
World Rugby,
Not that I'm aware of, but I think after every game, I think there's sort of reports go in, and if there are any issues, then the team that potentially is playing in that venue will raise them prior to that beginning of that week. Now, we can't do too much about that. If we stay in Fukuoka and we play here, we have to deal with the conditions that will present themselves. And I think both teams have to play on that pitch, so let's hope that it doesn't come and impact the game too much.
Okay.
All right, that's the end of the first bit of the press conference with Simon Easterby. The second bit is going to be embargoed, looks like, yeah. So there's all the print journalists putting their microphones, tape recorders up, so they get the bits that you'll read in the papers tomorrow. So the latest, it looks like, is that they are planning to play the game as scheduled at the weekend. They've had no news otherwise. So as it stands, Ireland versus Samoa is grand. We're waiting for an update on the path of the typhoon before the game gets switched, which is the plan B.
Yeah, it was. I guess there was never. They were never going to go through the rules of actually, what would happen if. What do they get? Like a point each or something?
A nil-all draw.
In the first half, a 0-0 draw, and then the second half, the score is as it is at the time. If it starts in the second half, so if Ireland are 10-3 up, I think that's how they give the final score in the second half. I think that's how it works.
If the game gets called off in the second half? Oh, sorry, no, but if it doesn't start, it's a 0-0 draw.
0-0 draw, yeah, which is preposterous. Hopefully it'll all...
we'd have taken that against Japan.
It'll all blow over.
Hey!
We'd have taken that against Japan, yeah. I guess it's a nice distraction for the guys so that they have to answer questions about the weather rather than the team itself. It's given a lot of positive spin on things and the training. It was the same with Farrell yesterday. He was speaking of how there's an edge to training, PBs in the gym and all that. So,
yeah.
I don't know if that's...
Are you buying it?
Ireland, they definitely need a bit of positive spin at the moment. I think when we spoke to Alan Quinn, and this is before the Russia game, but I mean the defeats they've had this year, I think it's hard for anyone in that squad to be very mentally sure of where they're at the moment.
So really what we need to happen to give ourselves any chance of qualifying, any chance of making a bit of history in the tournament is for Scotland to beat Japan, us to get 5 points at the weekend to top the group again.
Does Scotland need a bonus point? Are we okay?
I think... Once Scotland beat Japan, we'll be grand, right?
So, yeah, for Scotland to be sure of their own qualification, I think need to beat them by bonus point. Is that right?
Yeah, it depends, because they'll be on... No, I think they just need to avoid a losing bonus point. Wouldn't that be right?
So, for us...
They'd be on 14 as well.
We top the group if...
That's a good point.
Yeah, we top the group if...
Yeah, they need to get a bonus point.
Yeah, but we might have a chance of beating South Africa if it's kind of a case of like getting through this and then just regrouping and resetting the batteries, I think.
I think Gordon Darcy said we're back to that situation where we need some random one-off performance to be the thing, as opposed to, oh look, we've got all these systems in place. We can go into a game against any team in the world and go, as long as we play our game and we're the aggressors and we know exactly what we're doing, we'll be able to win that game, which isn't the case. You can't make that case.
In fairness, I thought like South Africa against New Zealand, for all that they were amazing for the first half an hour, like they did kind of wilt fairly quickly. I mean, the game was over quite fast, and we would have been nearly favourites to beat South Africa like about a year ago.
Oh yeah, before Razzie arrived and rescued the situation and brought everybody home.
Yeah. But so, and there are a lot of players in the squad that are kind of itching to get playing. So I don't know if he knows what his best team is really at the moment. So if they all do produce this one-off performance, but it's not going to happen against New Zealand, you would have thought.
No, well, I mean they can put now the situation where it looks like they could produce the one-off performance and still lose. Yeah,
but even if they do that, if they get to quarter-final against South Africa and lose narrowly, South Africa are a very good team, but just at the moment, it's again a bit of a lose-lose situation in Samoa because, I mean, I don't know, there's just so many questions to answer.
Yeah. We're going to have Tom English with us a little bit later on to talk to us about the Scottish situation. Here's what's coming up for you. We've done Carbery and Henderson. We've done Simon Easterby. We'll bring in sports pages next. After that, we're going to talk around about 8:15 this morning with Ruth Fahy's first, Tom English's second. So Ireland obviously in action for a European qualifier in Tallaght tonight. Again, it's sold out apparently, so that's going to come your way around about 8:05. Tom English, 8:20. Sheahan's Sushi, got it right. And another dispatch from Eoin, taking you up to around about 9 o'clock. And then a couple of the guys from ESPN are in town because College GameDay is coming to Dublin for the game between Navy and Notre Dame next August. And then we'll bring you sports news. Phil Egan's going to join us around about 9:10. I was at a Navy game at the weekend. Navy played Air Force. I didn't know very much about what Navy and Air Force were about.
I don't either.
So, Navy is the Navy Midshipman, and that's the Naval Academy, so 4,400 students. It's a really weird system. They as soon as you get accepted to that college, so it's a college, basically you go there for 4 years to get a Bachelor of Science degree at the end of it.
Where is
it? You're paid, it's in Annapolis in Maryland, on this amazing campus, like 300 acres of beautiful, pristine, it's all the way back to like the mid 18th century, so not what you would expect the military-industrial complex to build to train its young men and women to go off and lead in the Navy. They pay you to go from first year. So then the day you walk in, you're not paying fees. So obviously, it's, there's a bunch of Americans who can't afford to go to college, but who are very smart. So you can see suddenly why you might want to go to Navy to do your degree. So you do your degree and then you serve for 5 years, and then at the end of that, you've paid your money back.
Right. So you're not actually... Yeah, you're not like you're basically, you will pay it back. It's not like you're getting
no, it's not that you pay it back, it's that you've discharged your service. So you do service for 5 years after you do your 4 years. And they march 3 times a day to have food. So everybody gets fed breakfast, lunch and dinner. And they have a whole morning where for the 20 minutes before you get food, you have to line up in your battalions. And then they do this kind of drill, and then they march into the mess hall to eat in formation. And so we saw the lunchtime one and got to eat with them. We're in the room with 4,400 people being fed in 15 minutes.
Were they idealistic?
Yeah, well, no, I think they're just kids having crack in college, like you would have been at 19.
Yeah, the college system in the States, I mean, it's tough if you don't have money. Very, very tough.
But you can't make it if you don't have money, and unless you're a scholarship.
Yeah.
Or you go to one of these and you're like clever enough to get into one of the academies. So they have 16,000 applicants for 1,000 places every year.
Wow.
From obviously all around the country. But it does mean that when they win games, they can actually pitch invade almost in formation as well. So they won the game against Air Force. It was first half not so good, but they were well ahead. Third quarter they absolutely...
Were they mainly white or black kids, actually? A matter of interest. Or was it like a proper good mix?
Playing football?
Yeah, or in even the college itself?
It was a mix. I mean...
Yeah. From this, what social class would you suppose?
I couldn't tell from my eye test what it didn't feel like it was particularly... I would say there's a mixture of all social classes, really.
Right.
Because that's now, that can't be the case, because you need a letter from like a congressman or a senator for your application to even get in. It's like, so I would say, there's few enough working class or people coming from the poverty lines. But
and the Air Force then would probably, I presume they would have, like, the Navy would be favourites to beat the Air Force, would they?
No, they're very evenly matched. Because they have the Air Force, I didn't know anything about them either, but they're in Colorado and they've got 4,400 students. So it's exactly the same system. It's just that's for the Air Force and that's for the Navy. So it was Navy were winning the game the whole way through, and then Air Force stormed back in the third quarter and took the lead in the fourth quarter, and then Navy went ahead, and Air Force had the final play of the game to try and win the game, and they didn't. And here's what happened. Proper full-on pitch invasion.
That's mad.
So they're obviously all dressed in their whites, and they all stand in the same. So you that's 4,000 in that corner, all coming streaming onto the pitch at the same time.
Looks like a pilgrimage in Mecca, doesn't it? It's like a lot of white. And this is where again? This is in Maryland, isn't it?
Annapolis, yeah.
What brought you this? Was it were you working or?
Yeah. So Navy are playing Notre Dame in Dublin next year.
Oh, yeah.
And the announcement was being made this weekend. The College GameDay, the ESPN show, are going to host their show live.
First one outside the States?
Exactly, yeah. With a viewership of 2 million ESPN subscribers every week.
So you see the places where they're serving, or...
They have served in the past,
yeah.
So
Afghanistan.
And only the band stay behind to make sure...
And this is the Air Force crowd in front, or
no? That's all Navy. So that's Navy.
And these are just
whites.
Spectators.
Oh yeah. So it's like a
college football is incredibly big over there as well.
34,000 capacity.
Wow.
34,000/38,000 on big days when the fire marshal isn't.
It's totally alien to us. Like my cousins over there would be big fans of college basketball, and you see then the crowds at the college football games. It's pretty much as big as the NFL in many ways. And
well, in some states they have no NFL, so it's bigger.
Yeah. I find it very strange, like that my cousin, who's like, if he's not pension age, he isn't that far off, and he's like a big avid St. John's fan. Where I'm not even sure he actually went to college there, but it's kind of a local basketball team and huge crowds at it.
Yeah.
Because like no interest in college sports over here really, apart from the players and obviously the people even the people at the college. I don't think they're particularly bothered about it.
No, it's completely different. But that game, I'm really looking forward to that because the pomp and circumstance around that, their band, the Notre Dame band. I think that they're going to bring 2,000 midshipmen over on one of their boats.
Cool.
Which will float, 100 miles off, and then they'll bring them in for the game, and they'll all be in their uniforms. So
there's a great vibe in Dublin as well in that game. Is when
amazing.
Yeah, there's great. It is good for the city, to be fair.
Right, we're bringing the newspapers this morning. Going to start with the Irish Sun this morning. Over there, the headline is "Now we are on the right road." Some good Aaron Connolly puns. This is not the best one of them this morning. These Samoans are a bit Andy, is the headline on Neil O'Riordan's piece. Andy Farrell's more worried about a Samoan backlash than Typhoon. How are we saying it? Hagibis? Hard G or a soft G?
I have no idea.
Typhoon Hagibis? Hagibis? Has anybody got a correct pronunciation? Tommy says after the Scottish haggis. So we'll go with that. Expert pronunciation from
the boy Rooney.
You'll get me fired. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer told his Man United flops, you're going to get me the sack. Can't say that to a team because they're going to go, can we do that?
Yeah.
So I'll take my chance with the next guy here.
Yeah, he was talking about after the Everton game against Newcastle that the senior players need to the senior players and the senior members of staff need to kind of have a chat and put a hand around the young players who are struggling. Fortunately, that's kind of your job.
Exactly.
It does sound.
On the Aaron Connolly thing, we were chatting like this. Mick McCarthy revealed he would have no qualms about throwing Aaron Connolly in at the deep end.
Yeah, I just find it such a strange Aaron jumper as well in the Star.
That's the best headline.
Aaron jumper. Yeah, we had Connolly Station yesterday as well, which I quite liked. Just on that, I just find it like what's changed ultimately in the space of an hour of football. Like Aaron Connolly is no better or worse a player than he was last week. It just happens that he scored 2 goals. Now, he was very close to scoring against Newcastle, the width of a betting slip really from getting a goal that day, and he's been playing very well. I just can't see how Mick is now saying it wouldn't be a risk to start him, yet he didn't have him in the squad a few days ago, which to me was absolutely mad. And it's funny, in the post-John Delaney era, John Delaney put so much emphasis on getting to tournaments for the financial reward and all of that. Like, we've 3 games left, and in fairness, we could really do a qualifying for this tournament, and I think it's a massive gamble not to have him in the squad in the first place. Now, he could have brought him in, but you could make a case that Troy Parrott should certainly be thought of as well. But Aaron Connolly, I mean, to have, with all due respect to the Portsmouth winger who played for Derry, it's very early in the morning. To be fair to Ronan Curtis, Ronan Curtis is a good pro, but he's not Aaron Connolly. And Ronan Curtis wouldn't be within a NASA's roar of getting on the Brighton team. And just because Aaron Connolly has frightening pace and strength. And we've a midfield with the likes of Glenn Whelan in it. We don't have that much speed in our team. We need something different against Georgia. It's going to be a tricky game for us. We're odds against to win it. So I don't know. Now Mick is kind of. He's turning it around a bit now, the way he's talking about him. But Ole is safe, but doubts are growing. That's from Jeremy Cross. No talks over Tier 2 TV. The GA are yet to meet. RT, I always think it should be the GA is yet to meet. Storm the teacup for Joe, Typhoon, blah, 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 blah. Paul Lennon wrote the piece about Connolly. He's an opinion piece inside. I just want to mention this as well. This was on page 18. Jockey death payout. The family of an amateur jockey who died after a fall has received a settlement of an undisclosed sum at the High Court. I have to say I found that story shockingly sad, because I remember Jack Tyner, who's the son of Robert Tyner, and Mary, who's here, real proper grassroots Cork, Kinsale direction trainer, very good trainer, Robert Tyner. I remember reporting on this story when Jack passed away. He'd have fallen at point to point, and in Dungarvan, and he was a young aspiring jockey. I think he was 19 when he was a teenager anyway, and I don't think there was a real fear that Jack could pass away initially, and he did, and it was I remember like having to ring Robert Tyner just to get an update on it, and it's a horrible call to make when your son is potentially going to pass away, which he did. And basically that story today suggests that the bottom line is that Jack should be with us today, that he could have been saved, that he wasn't best treated after his fall, which is very, very sad for the family.
Yeah, horrific story there. The front cover of the Irish Examiner this morning is storm in a teacup. Farrell, typhoon threat won't distract Ireland. So that is the map at the moment of where the typhoon is and where it's expected to be on Saturday evening, with miles per hour of winds. 105 miles per hour is the one figure at the top there. So and then some of the other stories inside. Breaking the tackle law, why coaches, players and officials must move with the times. John Fogarty saying Tier 2 will be sudden death for weak counties. And there's a piece as well about the World Athletics Championships from Carl Dennehy, who did good stuff throughout the course of that competition. And then I'd have been potty to leave out Connolly, says McCarthy, but he did. He did. He did leave him out.
Unless you can tell us, Mick, that you were always going to draft him into the squad on the basis of an injury you knew would happen to Ronan Curtis. Very, very strange, and you know, Mick is a pretty old guy, and international football isn't maybe a place for revolutionary ideas and all that, but bloody hell, you don't need to watch Aaron Connolly score against Spurs to know he should be in the Ireland squad. Very interesting stuff at the back of the Independent from Michael Verney. Interesting but not surprising at all, I would argue. Galway set for more chaos as managerial saga drags on, and Franny Ford and Noel Larkin are reluctant to take Micheál Donoghue's post. Now, this should be a surprise to nobody, given that Micheál Donoghue left not because he wanted to leave, but because basically he's issues with the county board, and he felt that these issues wouldn't be resolved. But I mean, for Francis Ford or Noel Larkin to go in subsequent to Micheál Donoghue's reign, considering, you know, they served under him, they would obviously feel very awkward about that, notwithstanding the fact that they probably don't know what the situation will be with the county board, and also if it goes badly wrong, their reputation would suffer badly. And then Michael Verney goes on to say that the county is also on the lookout for a senior football manager. Galway legend Pádraig Joyce is the firm favourite to take charge, but Liam Kearns is also in the mix, and Daniel McDonald has plenty of stuff on Connolly. Do we have that Aaron Connolly photo, actually, the one I sourced as a kid, which I if we do have it, I was sent it yesterday, and with no context at all. You kind of had to figure out what the photo was. I might have it in due course, but I think Dan would make the case that he probably should start. And there's
now, yeah.
There's Connolly, obviously in training, very casually. Yeah, so here he is. I don't know, I picked this out straight away because why is a fella with Galway Football Connection sending me this? And if you just imagine a beard on him, does kind of look like him. Even then he kind of carries himself with a certain
Which one is he?
confidence. Well, he's clearly the guy in the middle.
Well,
he's not the other two.
Okay.
Do you know, like, look, you see the eyes and the kind of... I'm not sure who that... I should know this. It looks like a little AstroTurf pitch. I'm not sure who that's for, but obviously...
You say Merview, is it?
Could be Merview, but I don't recognise the logo, or the crest. So, but even then, you can see Connolly's a real... he's an athlete in the sense of how strong and aggressive he is on the ball. But you had Shane Keegan in on Saturday, and I do recall Shane saying when he used to work at Galway United in one of the hotels in Galway during the summer, Connolly was flat out in the gym. He worked really, really hard in the off season, and that would have been 2 summers ago, if not 3 summers ago. And what's interesting is that the story about Connolly was always, his attitude might be a little bit suspect, and now the narrative is, his attitude is actually endearing. It's that confidence that's good about him. Can't wait to see him play.
Oh yeah, hopefully he's straight in the team, starting the game, but we'll have to wait to see if Big Mick has decided that now he's good again. Aaron primed, McCarthy hints at intention to pick youngster. Well, look, you grow old quickly trying to work out Mick McCarthy's inner monologue. Farrell urges players to lead with their head. Andy Farrell has weighed in on World Rugby clamped down on high tackles at the World Cup with concussion rising at an alarming rate. Global Chiefs moved swiftly last year to stamp out dangerous tackles. Argentina lock Thomas Lavanini became the 5th player to be sent off at this World Cup. When he caught Eoin with a dangerous high shot during the game at the weekend.
I suppose the one other thing there on Connolly that you mentioned, Mick kind of to and frown over it. Mick said, you know, if I don't start and you'll be given out. If I start him and he has a meltdown, you'll be given out. Well, we won't actually, because, you know, everyone basically thinks that's the gamble we're taking. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I find that hard to believe.
All right, Solskjaer fears Liverpool route could cost his job. October 20 clash may be key to manager's future. What are we at now? We are at the 8th of October. We've got 12 more days until I can't wait for that game now.
But
really very excited.
Did he not just say after the game on Sunday it was the perfect game for Manchester United to play Liverpool at home? Liverpool obviously. We had Daniel Harris on yesterday morning saying he felt Liverpool kind of bottled the league last season, which I thought was a bit harsh. But one of the games he cited was the 0-0 draw at Old Trafford, where they were quite conservative in the way they lined up. You can't really see that at the moment, and losing it is the headline in the Mirror. Which is exactly what it says in the tin, really. Chiefs can't take much more, and defeat to Liverpool could spell end of 7 months' reign. Players confused by tactics and upset that he told them to sort their heads out. And former United stars Ince and Van Persie slam his methods. I don't really see what relevance Paul Ince and Van Persie have in terms of the Man United manager and whether he's good enough for the job or not. Maybe you could say the same about you and I, but by Georgia, he's just too good.
They've got a few more caps than we do, but
was Paul Ince a successful manager?
No, not particularly.
Hero DJ to join boss Cody. DJ Carey. This is an exclusive by Pat Nolan. DJ Carey, who's obviously had his stint managing, was it the minor footballers in Kilkenny? DJ Carey is set to join Brian Cody's revamped Kilkenny hurling management team.
You can win Carlo IT obviously as well.
Yeah, and in the first shake-up of Cody's setup in 6 years, the legendary player will join the management team. Interesting one there.
Right, so the Irish Times, the rugby in their first 2 pages, but there's an interesting story here. Leinster's lame duck. This is Dennis Connaughton. You can compete with the Kildares and Meath, but Dublin is a different animal altogether. Everybody's basically come to the conclusion that the provincial championship is a steaming pile of dog-do at this point and needs to be changed, radically changed. That's the theme of many of the columns today. And that was the front page of the, which was Andy Farrell stuff there. So the Irish News for you. I've got the Irish News for you as well this morning. Tell you what's coming up on that right now. 2 minutes past 8 this morning. Lynch. Love Darragh will beat Cargan in final replay, and Frampton expected to face Puerto Rican in Vegas bout. So Carl Frampton back in the ring. So the Munster football championship draw has been made. There will be no Kerry Cork Munster football final in 2020 because they're going to meet in the semi-final. The other side of the draw, Waterford against Limerick, Clare against Tip, and the winners will meet in the semi-final. So Waterford against Limerick, Clare versus Tip. So Clare and Tipperary will fancy their chances of a trip to the Munster final next year.
It'll massively help their Super 8's prospects. I suppose it is a kind of an indictment of the provincial system, which Colm O'Rourke in one of the papers today more or less is calling to get rid of, in that I don't think anyone really cares about really cares for the draws for the provinces at this stage, and in Dublin it's a complete irrelevance. Having said that, Leinster is a dead duck, but Dublin aren't exactly struggling against most other teams as well.
A couple of stories in the papers today. Hugo Lloris ruled out until 2020 with the dislocated elbow. Not a great...
horrible injury for him, and I don't really rate Lloris, to be honest. I think he doesn't give Spurs defence confidence at a time when probably they give confidence, but they need confidence. But that was a horrible injury.
It doesn't need surgery apparently, so it's going to fix itself between now and at some point next year.
To show maybe the Guardian as well. Just I think you might be more on top of what's going on in the athletics than me, Ger, but I'll review the decisions I made. Black considers his position at UK Athletics after Salazar ban. The UK Athletics Performance Director Neil Black is considering his position in the wake of Alberto Salazar's 4-year ban for doping offences. I just find it very, very hard. I mean, is it McClenaghan, the Irish guy who's going to go to the Olympics, Rhys McClenaghan, who I've actually met, and it's so infectious to meet him. How just how well he's done and the effort he's put in, the shape he's in, and the dream that he's realising amidst the backdrop of just how athletics has to deal with so much negativity the whole time about, suspicions of rumour, innuendo and all that.
Yeah.
And it must be very hard for athletes because people just turn off now because this is just constant.
Yeah, I wonder if people just tune in for the big tournaments and don't care. I think people have moved to the post-caring stage where come back to us when it's a weird, because I think that the Olympics will still have a huge audience next year for the track and field. I'm talking specifically for track and field, where we can't really believe much of what we see. Mourad Boudjelal was interesting yesterday, calling on the French players to take charge, to basically do what France do at World Cups and have a revolt. It's like, our tactic is just get there and then let the players take over.
Gotta love the French.
It's worked out pretty well for us so far. A big game against England at the weekend for them.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't know. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe it has already happened. But
nothing to suggest that should even be close. Really. I mean, England should be at least 20 points better than.
Oh, the game. Yeah. No, probably not. Probably not. We're going to talk Ireland against Ukraine next with Ruth Fahy. Massive game for Ireland tonight. Here's the Irish women's national team manager Vera Pauw on tonight's sold-out qualifier and the strengths that her side have. Have a look.
All fighters, they're all going for 100%. That is the core strength of this team. Then we have identified that we have a few very creative players, and we have very disciplined players, and we are setting up in a way that we get the strength out of each player. So we're using the players that have the talent to be 90% disciplined. We use that side of them, and we eliminate what they're not so good at. And the creative players get the freedom to bring in that creativity with those disciplined players to making that happen for them. So we, as I said before, we identify what kind of players we have. We take the strength out of them. We eliminate what they're not so good in, so that we get the best on the pitch. And that's what we've been working on.
Are you trying to achieve results in any way possible, or do you want to get results playing a certain style?
No, it's all related to results. So this is the national team. If we have, for example, a friendly tournament, then you can try out a few things. But tomorrow it's just about getting a result. And that could be that we decide during the game that a draw is a result. But we start off with that we're going for a win. We will always do that.
Okay, this is Vera Pauw speaking at the press conference. I think yesterday, we've got Ruth Fahy on the line to talk to us now about what she expects to happen tonight. Ruth, good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm good, guys. Good morning. How are you?
So I didn't realise, but Ukraine were technically the second seeds heading into the when the draw was made for this group, but they've been hammered twice now by Germany. So have we got the best chance really at this point of finishing second, do you think?
Yeah, you have to be honest about it and be realistic about it, and having both that in mind. Absolutely. Like, Ukraine have just come off the back of 2 8-0 hammerings to Germany, so they're definitely at a weak point. It is strange, like Ukraine and Ireland are very, very similar. Like historically, they've only ever qualified for one major tournament, Finland, back in 2009. And apart from that, results-wise, they're quite similar. But if you look back to the World Cup qualifying campaign, both Ireland and Ukraine finished on 13 points. They managed to scab quite a big result against Denmark, beating Denmark, but then lost comprehensively then to Sweden twice and Denmark after that. We'll all remember that Ireland got that massive result to Netherlands away, got that draw, but of course lost twice to Norway and then again to Netherlands. So similar, like in terms of quality-wise and results-wise, quite similar. I'm surprised Ukraine are slightly ahead there on rankings. They're ranked 25th in the world. Ireland have dropped slightly to 32. But on paper, like looking at this Irish side now compared to the Ukraine side, really they've kind of got one star striker playing for Atletico Madrid. The rest are mostly domestically based players. Their league is professional, but by no means is it like a huge stride ahead of the Irish league here. But looking at our girls and comparing us now to 2 years ago, like it's insane the amount of experience and accolades that they've gathered in those 2 years already. So Yeah, like going into this game, it's a home game. We've all been talking it's a sellout. Hopefully it is a sellout. I know it's the talk of season tickets actually claimed. Whether they'll be there is another question. But weather looks okay. I'm looking out the window here. It's not wet, and hopefully there will be packed stands and a big crowd as well.
Tell us a bit more about the difference between the team 2 years ago, will you? Because just explain that, like, why the team should be much more confident. What have they achieved as individuals over the last 2 years?
Well, that's exactly the point. Like, if you even break down the team one by one, I'm looking at the likes of Katie McCabe. 2 years ago, Katie McCabe was going out on loan to Glasgow and wasn't quite happening for her at Arsenal. Since then, she's gone on to establish herself at Arsenal. She's a standout player in the WSL winning side. She's won the WSL last year. Same with Louise Quinn. She was just off the back of losing her club. Notts County had disbanded 2 years ago. She's just been picked up by Arsenal. Same as Katie. She won the 2018 WSL. That's absolutely huge. And what that does to your confidence is outrageous. Like, these are two players in top form in the top side in the UK. Like, that is massive. Another one that likes Tyler Toland. She had just broken in the start of the 2009 qualifying campaign. Remember, she became the youngest player after Emma Byrne when she started against the Dutch. She's now just gotten signed by Man City. Like, Man City, she's just turned 18. She's played a couple of games already. That's absolutely huge for her confidence, her form. And I know at 18, but she's already a really, really important player for us. Ruth Fahy, she had just finished up at Chelsea 2 years ago. She's had a season abroad in Bordeaux. Now she's vice-captain at Liverpool. She's entering like her absolute prime. Again, confidence is really high there. And again, looking up front, Leanne Kiernan, two years ago, she was still playing with Shelbourne. She's now had a season under her belt at West Ham, the WSL. And again, she's a starter. She sets for them every single game. Amber Barrett and Claire Reardon have both gone abroad. They both play now professionally in Germany. 2 years ago, Claire Reardon was a striker for Wexford Youth, as was Amber Barrett with Piment. Then we have got three WNL players, Rihanna Jarrett, Claire Walsh, and we also have Chloe Mustaki. Rihanna Jarrett is in probably the best form of her entire life. She was just getting back into the international squad 2 years ago. She's now flying fit, probably on the brink of going professional next season. But a lot of people do expect it. There is talk about it. But just to have that pick, because before it was kind of Kiernan, do we go with Pace or Kiernan, do we go for Power Barrett? Now we've got those three, and something that we haven't really talked about too much is Julianne Russell. Johnny, you'll remember Julianne from the Galway days. Like,
yeah.
She's playing over in Sydney University at the moment. So she went abroad, she emigrated for work reasons, and because of that reason just assumed she was kind of bringing herself out of international selection. But Eileen Gleeson would know Julianne extremely well. She played under her for years at Piment, and she's obviously given a nod to Vera that it's worth actually flying her back over to get her back in, because we are a little bit light on the right wing. Heather Payne may start there, but Russell is a standout winger. I've played with her for years.
She's John's sister, isn't she?
As well. Say again?
John Russell's sister, isn't she?
She is indeed, yeah. She's John's younger sister.
Things are looking up for Galways, like Aaron Connolly and all that. You know, just got a lot of talent in the region at the moment. I did want to ask you about the comments that Vera made. I am certain we will qualify for the playoffs. Now, yeah, I'd be a little bit wary of stuff like that. Like, Ireland didn't play all that well against Montenegro. They were underwhelming, I think you could say. It's bullish talk for a coach who's literally just in the door, and it could backfire.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised as well. She said she gave herself a week, and after seeing the players for a week in training, that she is fully confident she is able to say that. Bullish talk, but is that a strategy from her? She wants to give her players confidence. All the talk around the squad and everything in the media reports at the moment is really positive about Vera. There were question marks when she came in. She had a little bit of a struggle, I suppose, of a stumble at Houston Dash. She was over there in the States for a season. They came sixth. They expected to come in the top four, and they didn't. There's talk of her kind of management style can be quite strict and severe, but all the talk, I know obviously it's very, very early days, but she gave a little workshop as well to the Women's National League club coaches over the last couple of days, and everyone speaks really positively about her already. But do you blame her? She's come in, she's got a squad of players, they're all playing professionally. I'm sure that training has gone well, and she seems very confident. And after seeing Ukraine, I know Germany are a whole level ahead, but 2 8-0 hammerings back to back. I mean, if that were the Irish girls, that would be seriously bad news. I don't think Vera Pauw sees us at that level at all, and she'll know Ukraine obviously should have done her homework. So it's confident talk. It is a bit bullish, but it's I think it probably is the right approach, and I do expect Ireland to go out and win this evening.
Yeah, Ruth, what difference does it make that it is expected? So it's there are no tickets available. Hopefully everybody, as you said, does use them. What difference will it make to have a game in a stadium which is full, where there's noise, where the atmosphere is exclusively for the Irish team? I mean, this is a quantum leap forward in terms of women's football in Ireland. Yeah, it is, exactly. And this is kind of the aftershock and the after effect that we hoped from the Women's World Cup. It's absolutely huge. Like, guys, you know yourself, you've been at stadiums where it's a bit empty, a bit echoey, and then reflect that upon those that are absolutely full. I was at the Montenegro game. Wasn't great weather, and there was talk then of kind of a full crowd. It wasn't to be. I think it was just around 3,000, just over that mark, and it's just not quite the same. And then, of course, being down to Tala, where it's full stacked out for League of Ireland games, and it's just completely different than when you have a full packed Tala stadium and they're all baying for Ukrainian blood and supporting the Irish girls. That is huge, because these are confidence players. It's difficult when you're playing at a really high level, especially in women's team sport at the moment, because you're always really aware, obviously, the pressure is on to win, especially in a game like this. But you also want to play well, and you know that if you don't, you do fairly get lambasted for it. So having a positive, supportive crowd there in Tala, and I know there's always like a lot of families and kids, and they're always really noisy, which is a really good thing. It actually does honestly have such a mental impact on the players, and it is really important. And like I said, like, the weather is looking good for tonight, and hopefully it is a full packed stadium and get the 12th man on board. Okay, so you're predicting a win? Yeah, I'm predicting a win. I think anything less. A draw will do, but I think all things are pointing towards a win and 3 points. All right, Ruth, enjoy the game. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Thanks a million, guys.
Thanks, Ruth. Ruth Fahy there, giving us some thoughts ahead of the game tonight. It kicks off at 7:45 in Tala. Updates on that on the Off the Ball show on Newstalk this evening. Great to hear the crowd. The under 21s as well is sold out against Italy. They won't get to see Aaron Connolly now, but these are positive developments. I honestly think ladies sport is going to completely explode in the next few years. I think we're already seeing that anyway. The World Cup has done wonders, but it's great to see the girls in green. And Tala is becoming a very, very important stadium for. I know Stephen Kenny's rightfully had a pop at how small Dalymount is going to be. I think it's 6,000 when it's redeveloped. Which isn't, I mean, why do you build a new stadium that's 6,000? Because you never fill it otherwise, and it's going to be great. Every time it's full, it's going to be great, and it's going to be full loads. Yeah, I don't get that. I actually don't think that if you put a 15,000 seater stadium in there and it's full once a year for a game, it's pointless. Having an amazing atmosphere. We need to be more ambitious than that. But why don't we just be realistic and go? What if it's an amazing stadium, full 6,000, and you get it full because people want to go to see the experience? I get that. It's full every week for Bowes and Shelbourne. What's wrong with actually trying to be realistic about? But what about it for other games then, for Ireland under 21 games and maybe Tala's 8,000 or 12,000. Yeah, but should we not have an alternative in Dalymount? And I would certainly hope Bowes and the League of Ireland will be attracting crowds bigger than 6,000 regularly. I just think it's quite small-minded unless there's potential to actually build on. There was 7,000 at the last Rovers Bowes game, and the League of Ireland is still miles behind where it should be, in my view. Now you're right about, because I was at Dundalk Carbery in a 6,000 seater stadium, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been at. Well, that's it. That's the thing. And so what if that Lansdowne Road and it's a waste of time? Exactly. And what if you actually? That's the atmosphere every week, and the 6,000 tickets become sought after, and they become something. Suddenly, you can raise the price, and then everything improves. But if you get it to a point where 6,000 is a problem, then you've got a good problem on your hands. Yeah, well, Dan was at the Colchester game that Troy Parrott was in. They're playing the 4th tier of England, 10,000 seater stadium. I mean, was it full? It was for the Spurs game. Probably isn't ever week full. On week. Yeah, but that's not the way they look at things in England. They're like, build it and they will come. Yeah, but they don't come. That's the thing. People don't come. Big crowds though. Well, now, I've been at Coventry games where it's a 30,000 seater and there's 8,000 and it's nah. And that's Coventry. Yeah. And that probably first division or championship. They're now championship. Yeah. All right. Let's hear from Mick McCarthy talking about John Egan and Aaron Connolly here. He was excellent. Yeah, he was, and his goals were both very good. People talk about his second one. I thought his first one was brilliant because his movement was good. He got across the defender, and then having had it saved, he was the presence of mind. He didn't just have a little dig at it and then run off. He spun and put it in the net. So really good. And I saw him against Montenegro, and I was really impressed with him that day playing on the left. And he really has got some personality on the pitch, that's for sure, and plays with a personality. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mick.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You said after the last game you didn't feel that maybe Tbilisi in Switzerland was a place for the youngsters to make debuts. Do you sort of stand by that, and you think you'd rather go with the more experienced?
Yeah, but I've also said that if somebody gets in the first team in the Premier League and playing well and scoring goals, then he's every chance of getting a chance in the team. So that kind of neutralises the first comment, if you like, for my head. I don't think it is. You know, is it the right place to make a debut? No, if he hasn't played. You see, this was all on the back of Aaron playing well in the 21s and scoring. This is all on the back of Troy Parrott playing well in the 21s. I've said all along that if they're in the Premier League playing well, scoring goals, they'll get a chance.
Yeah, it was class for him, you know. I think a few of us were watching the game on the bus on the way to our game, and I obviously noticed he was starting up front, and he'd scored the first one by the time we got to the stadium. So, you know, yeah, I was buzzing for him. Young lad from Galway, you know, he's come in last night, seems like a great guy, and you know, if he keeps his head down, hopefully he's got a big future ahead of him for club and country.
Have you come across him before? Do you know much about him?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of bits from him before, and you know, from talking to people who've played with him or who know him quite well, he's always been really highly rated. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing him in training this week, and as I said there, you know, he's still only 19, so hopefully he's got a long and successful future ahead of him.
Yeah, look, we shouldn't get too carried away. John Egan is the perfect example of somebody who had a pretty horrific knee injury and took really a couple of years to get back from it. So he's back playing, thankfully, at the level that his talent decrees. But you do want to put a little bit of a lid on the excitement that we feel about
Connolly.
Well, Connolly and Parrott and Obafemi. Yeah, it's very exciting.
It's very, very exciting, and we should be excited. And
but let's just dial it down back a little bit until.
Yeah, like I think people have made the argument that, you know, the under-21s is a good place for these players to kind of be nurtured and to come along.
If we Declan Rice and Grealish as well.
Because in fairness to Declan Rice, like he would be absolutely perfect for this team, because we just don't have that proper good holding midfielder. Maybe he's looking on with a little bit of envy now at the young players coming through. I highly doubt it. But no, I think things are definitely... I've never been as excited about Ireland as I am at the moment, because
Stephen Kenny's going to be the next manager.
No, it's actually very little to do with Stephen Kenny. It's just the players that he's happened upon, really, because Stephen Kenny's had nothing to do with the players that have just somehow come around at what looks to be something of a golden generation. Malumbi as well, O'Connor, you know, they're very, very good players there. Their two centre backs look very promising, and Connolly, to do what he did on Saturday is quite extraordinary. To be
the
fair.
Second one, the shot from the outside of the foot and then following it up, that's almost more impressive than the other goal, because the other goal was like, okay, look, you know, I can take possession, run a defender and stick it in the far corner, which is brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But it's the strikers. I've sniffed the goal.
He's very, very hungry. He's just really hungry to score goals. I think he'll always be pissed off if he's taken off. And you know, we haven't had a proper striker in so long. We haven't had a proper midfielder in so long either. But the more you talk about it, you can see him making an impact against Georgia, who are far inferior to Tottenham Hotspur, for one thing.
Yeah.
But it's also true we've inferior players maybe to Brighton, but you got to be excited. And we kind of need to win in Georgia in a way.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the other two games, Georgia have offered very little as an attacking threat. They haven't scored at all against the big teams in the group, including ourselves. And as much as the atmosphere will be hostile, like Georgia would be a different kettle of fish if they had someone to play for. You know, so no excuses for me, and even with the players we've out.
Right. We're going to cross back to Japan in a moment, where Tom English is standing by. First, though, here's Brian O'Driscoll talking on Monday Night Rugby about Ireland's predictability. Have a look.
It doesn't feel as though, you know, where other teams look as though they have three options, it feels as though if you're a betting man that you could guess which one was going to be taken. And so if I'm able to guess it from the TV, I would imagine defensive systems that have analysed the team and analysed their shape and seen the personnel have a fair idea what option they're going to go for as well. And I'd be a bit worried that the teams that put huge pressure from the outside as well, and England do it and South Africa do it, and Wales do it, where we don't give ourselves a chance, even from a depth perspective, we don't give ourselves a chance to actually get out there. Even if we pull it back to the 10 from the first pod, the depth of our strike runners on the second phase is still too flat, where wingers or centres can read through and slam the gate shut. So I don't see, we're not doing it as well as other teams. We're not doing it as well as England. We're not doing it as well as New Zealand. But that doesn't mean that, we need to get that stuff perfect for whatever quarterfinal we might get. If we get there, we're talking about, all bets are off, because you just then have to have one of the biggest performances you've had over the Joe Schmidt tenure, and then you might qualify.
Yeah, it's as easy as that. That's Brian O'Driscoll speaking last night. That's all we need, is the biggest performance of the entire Joe Schmidt era to get past a quarter-final that we might make or that we might not make, depending on what happens this weekend. Let's go to Japan and talk to Tom English about how things are going with the Scotland camp. Tom, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, good. The Scotland situation is fairly similar to the Ireland situation at the moment, where it's a team who are desperately crying out to try and find the type of form they know they're capable of, and the form that led to their supporters having such high expectations, but which have cruelly been exposed in the sweltering heat of Japan. What's the perception of where Scotland are now versus where they should be?
I think they're exactly where they thought they would be. They thought they would lose to Ireland, but they didn't expect to lose as dismally. So that was a major blow. They thought they would beat Samoa, which they have done. They're playing Russia tomorrow. They would expect to beat them with scoring 4 tries. And when the draw was made, everyone in Scotland would have said that it's going to come down to the final game, Scotland versus Japan, and that's the case. So they are, I think, where they thought they were going to be. I don't think there was great expectations at all with the Scotland team. Everyone in Scotland knows what they're about. They're on their day excellent and a danger to most teams. On another day, dismal and a danger to themselves. And we've seen that repeatedly, and not just in the Gregor Townsend era, but before. They will lose to America one week, and then they'll put 40 or 50 points in Argentina the next week. They will beat Australia in Sydney one week, and then they will lose to Fiji in Suva the following week. They're a yo-yo team. They're desperately looking for some level of consistency. They have one good result, and it was a good performance against Samoa. They need another one against Russia. The team has changed considerably since Ireland. Some of the old guard have been moved out of the team. John Barclay, gone. Ryan Wilson, gone. Tommy Seymour, gone. Duncan Taylor would have been considered first choice in the midfield. He's now gone from what would be considered the first choice team. So a lot has changed.
Do you think, Tom, he'll go back to that selection for the Japan game? Is that a possibility that, when it comes down to it, Townsend will ultimately be a conservative team selector for that game?
No, I think he will go back to the team that beat Samoa. So I think you'll have Jamie Ritchie at open side, you'll have Blade Thompson at 8, and you'll have Magnus Bradbury at 6. They brought a lot of fire, a lot of energy, a lot of aggression to the Samoa game. I think you'll go back to that. I think Barclay and Wilson, the mainstays, 2 captains, former captains of Scotland. Barclay's captaining them tomorrow night. I think they'll be out. One of them might make the bench. I don't think it's going to be a conservative team. I don't think Gregor Townsend knows how to put a conservative team or a pragmatic team onto the pitch. But I think the team will look very, very similar, if not the same, as the one that went out against Samoa. And there was a nicer balance to the way they played against Samoa. They did go wide, but they didn't go wide in a brainless fashion like they tried to do against Ireland. They kind of beat up Samoa first, and then they went wide. But there was more structure to it. There was no structure against Ireland. There was nothing against Ireland. It was just a ridiculous performance.
Is there not a sense, though, Tom, that they're, and like Ireland, under the Joe Schmidt era, we've achieved great things, but we've never been amazingly good to watch. At least when you're watching Scotland, that element of unpredictability, which is probably defined a bit by Finn Russell, who I thought was absolutely brilliant against Samoa. You're always entertained by them, and I find them great to watch. And I could see the Japan game being an absolute classic as well for what's at stake.
Yeah, listen, I think it could well be a classic. But, it's all very well for us in Ireland to say, gee, Scotland are great to watch. Scotland haven't won anything in 20 years. And Ireland have won European Cups, Grand Slams, Six Nations Championships. So I think the Scottish rugby fan would say, you know what, give us a bit of boring. We're happy to do boring if it means we win something. Because the country is starved, not even of trophy, but even a challenge for a trophy. Like there has been nothing in 20 years. So there is in Scotland an excitement when Scotland play well, like they're capable of playing for sure. But there's also as well a group of fans that would think, do you know what? Let's try and be a bit more pragmatic. Let's try and play winning rugby rather than entertaining rugby. And entertaining rugby will get a win against Australia every so often, or a win against Ireland every so often. But it's never going to be enough to put together a bid for a championship, which requires, that kind of Welsh-like, Irish-like in 2018 Ireland belligerence, like this robotic consistency and efficiency and aggression. Scotland are not made that way, and a lot of people in Scotland would, while admiring the way they play, would wish they were a bit more like Ireland.
I can see why that would certainly seep into the consciousness, and yet at the same time, of the teams who are left, well, maybe Japan would fancy a crack against the All Blacks, but certainly I can see Scotland going into a game against the All Blacks going, we've got nothing to lose, let's treat this like we're 40 points down against England at Twickenham and see what happens. And lo and behold, that second half performance could be there. Like, I know it's completely ridiculous to talk like that in advance of a game against the All Blacks if you're Scotland, but for the teams who are left in the group, Ireland, Japan and effectively Scotland, of the three of them, the opportunity to pull off a shock victory, I mean, I would be the least surprised if Scotland were able to put it up to them on their day. And I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but at the same time, there's the bones of some sense there.
Well, look, I mean, they have to get past Russia, which they will. And they have to get past Japan. Massive if over that one. If they get into a quarter-final against New Zealand, then the pressure is off them. Their hope and expectation for this World Cup is all about making the last eight. If they make the last eight, then they breathe a big sigh of relief and they have a crack. You're right, they have a crack at New Zealand and nothing to lose. There isn't a sinner in the world who thinks they're going to beat New Zealand. So the shackles are off and they could play. And in that mentality, as you say, second half against Twickenham, Finn Russell taking risks, throwing offloads. If all of those come off against New Zealand, like, you never know. You probably do know, actually, they're going to lose. but we may as well dream here in this coffee house in Hamamatsu than dream in bed tonight. Is it possible that Scotland could do it? Anything is possible. I think they could give New Zealand a rattle on their absolute best day. Finn Russell playing like Finn Russell, Stuart Hogg shooting the lights out, everything clicking. They might give them a rattle, but they have to do the business against Russia and Japan first, and that Japan game, as you say, is going to be just stratospheric.
Where are they, Tom, on Gregor Townsend? Because you can see the team is very much kind of in the mould of him. Has it reached a plateau now in terms of maybe not being, as you say, pragmatic enough and efficient enough to kind of reach the potential that Scotland have? And what's the narrative in the media behind Gregor Townsend at this stage?
I think after the Ireland game, there was most criticism of Gregor Townsend of his time, and it's 2 years, more or less, since he took over. That was the most criticism he came in for. There was a lot of people back in Scotland saying, do you know what, we made a major mistake here by getting rid of Vern Cotter. Vern Cotter was that pragmatic coach. He was making progress in toughening up the Scottish mindset, which was very, very weak against Ireland. And a lot of people said, well, we should have stuck with Vern Cotter because we'd be further down the road. Now, what we saw against Samoa was a more pragmatic Scotland. It was a more intelligent Scotland. It wasn't the harem, Harlem Globetrotters Scotland. There was a lot more to it. They kicked more against Samoa. They kicked them into the corner. They pinned them back. They put them under pressure. They built the scoreboard, and eventually they had the mental strength laid on in the game to get that fourth try. That is a kind of Scotland that we haven't seen for a while. I mean, you see it. You saw it in the second half against England, but that was when they were 30 points down at the break. They had nothing to lose. This was a huge pressure game against Samoa, and in fairness to them, they really handled it well, and they handled it in a less than Gregor Townsend type way. It was a kind of hybrid of what Cotter was trying to do and what Townsend has been doing. It was a middle ground. It was much more balanced, and I think much more effective for it.
Notwithstanding the fact that things have improved, he also was fairly forthright in press conferences this week when talking about Jakob Piper's decision to penalise the put into the scrum that led to the opportunity for Japan to score their bonus point try at the weekend. So already, and rightly so, pointing out to anybody who's involved in refereeing games this week that when it comes down to Scotland against Japan at the weekend, let's not all try and have the World Rugby facilities in favour any more of Japan than being the home team are.
Yeah, and this was very interesting. Yes, I mean, I asked him at the press conference yesterday about the crooked feed, this big story at the end of that game, the crooked feed that Piper called against Samoa, which led to Japan's fourth try and bonus points, which potentially has a big effect in this pool. And Townsend normally, he's a guy that doesn't engage in controversy at all. He can see the question coming and he plays a straight bat. With this one, he embraced it. It was very unusual. He said it was an incredible call by Piper. And then I think he backed it up by saying an absolutely incredible call, that you never see this in the game, you never see it in the Six Nations or a World Cup. And then suddenly, in the dying minutes of a game involving the host nation, a crooked feed is called. Now, it was a kind of ... Make up your own mind about that, you know. So he was clearly irked by it, and he moved on, and he's saying that if Scotland failed to get out of the group, it's something to do with a crooked feed, it's to do with them. But he put it out there, and I was quite surprised that he answered it the way he did, because he normally doesn't go down that road. So he clearly wanted to make a point in that press conference yesterday.
Which is actually of a piece with how Joe Schmidt has been dealing with stuff as well. After the Japan game, he made it known that there were incorrect decisions made, and you know, the type of stuff that you would assume is happening in the background that doesn't become public. Everybody's actually going, look, it's a World Cup. I'm going to get out there and do whatever it is that I have to do to try and win. Is it the right course of action, do you think, to be putting the pressure on the referees, especially if you're Scotland ahead of the game against Japan, knowing full well that Japan are definitely being refereed in a slightly more easy fashion than everybody else?
Well, I think as a journalist, I think it's a great approach. A bit of honesty, it gives us a story. I'm all for that. I don't see the problem with it. I think it was an honest answer. I think an awful lot of people were perplexed by that crooked feed. Okay, listen, it was a crooked feed. There's no doubt about it. And crooked feed plus maybe the crooked feed happened because they knew the hooker wasn't going to hook for the ball. So you know, could have been a double call on Piper's behalf there. But it's a very strange one at that stage of a game when crooked feeds, they're not policed anymore. Either police the thing or don't police the thing. You know, but don't police it once every 6 months or a year. You know, it's very, very odd. Didn't police it during the game. I don't know about Jakob Piper's policing of crooked feeds at scrums in his career, but I'd say it's the same as every other referee, i.e. they don't bother.
Yeah.
So why then?
Well, because you need to give Japan a chance.
That's where Townsend was coming from. Why then?
Yeah, he's dead right. Before we let you go, Tom, what's your assessment of where Ireland are at the minute and their chances of getting out at this stage? I mean, all they've got to do is beat Samoa. You know, it should be fairly straightforward, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, the team was obviously bursting with confidence, you know, playing flawless rugby. And listen, Samoa are sticky enough, but Samoa, they can't keep 15 men on the park, so that will make Ireland's job a bit easier. I think Ireland will get the job done, get into the quarterfinal. Look, I might be being a bit naive and a bit optimistic, here. But I cannot believe that there isn't one big performance in Ireland. I can't believe that they're gone as a team. I would be surprised if they got into the quarter-final and they went out meekly. That would really surprise me, because there's still class players in this side, in this squad. There has to be a performance in there. I'm not saying they're going to beat, if it's South Africa, I'm not saying they're going to beat them. Surely to goodness, there's a reaction to all of the grief that they're going through, and all the doubt that they must be feeling. There has to be something more. The Joe Schmidt era surely can't just go out in a puff of smoke like this. I mean, again, look, maybe I'm optimistic, maybe I'm being overly optimistic and naive, but I just think there's one big push coming from this team.
Scotland beat Japan as well.
Yeah, what do you think? Will Scotland beat Japan?
Do you know what? I was on Saturday in Kobe. I was interviewed by a Japanese TV station, and I said that Scotland would beat Japan. And I was on BBC Scotland yesterday, and I said that Japan would beat Scotland. So I'm all over the place. I'm about as consistent as Gregor Townsend's team. I'm up and down on this. I just don't know. I mean, it depends on what side of the bed I wake up on. I can definitely see a case for Scotland beating Japan, but I can also see a big case for Japan beating Scotland. It's very interesting. The bookmakers make Scotland favourites to win the game, but Japan favourites to go through to the quarterfinals. So the bookmakers don't believe that Scotland are going to win by 7 points, by more than 7 points.
Yeah, because they're only slight favourites.
If you put a gun to my head now, I would say right at this moment, I would say that Japan are going to win this game.
Right. Well, look, it's a lot to look forward to.
I think Scotland will win. It is interesting though because of the tightness of it. But I like the way Tom. He doesn't actually, he's not subordinate to his audience. So he tells the Japanese that Scotland are going to win, and he tells the Scots that Japan are going to win, which isn't usually the way us fawning journalists operate. But there you are.
I'm just a disagreeable individual.
Hey. Well, it's very agreeable of you to take our call this morning, Tom. Thanks a million. Take care.
A pleasure. See you, lads. Good luck.
Tom English there giving us some thoughts. He's obviously with the Scottish camp. 8:41 this morning.
It's going to be a cracking game, though, isn't it? Japan-Scotland.
I can't wait for it, yeah.
It's not only the fact that Scotland need to win, but then if you're going to the bonus point situation and the fact that the Japanese crowd will be mad. Like anyone I spoke to who was at the Ireland game, as much as it was horrible to see Ireland lose and so on and so forth, it was a fantastic occasion. How it has gripped Japan, the World Cup, and how rugby has become such a thing where they're just ready to go mad at these games. And
we'll know exactly what our scenario is by the time that game comes around as well.
Yeah.
That game's on Sunday, so we'll be able to watch that.
But they're both good teams to watch.
Either already out of the tournament and securing the knowledge that we've got lots to look forward to, or
I think we'll be okay. I think wouldn't it be great if we did end up top in the group? Scotland came along and joined us by beating Japan to beat New Zealand, and it's like we play very well against Samoa, which could happen. I think we'll win that game comprehensively. I don't think they offer enough offensively to really trouble us. And all of a sudden, things are okay, because it's been a little bit of a kind of, after Scotland game, everyone was on a high again.
Oh yeah,
we were far too much into that. I think the Russia game, as much as we weren't great, is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah,
really. Like if we did that after winning our first 2 games, nobody would be saying anything.
No.
And let's buy into maybe the positive stuff coming from these press conferences, that at least there is an edge to training and that. I do think there are a lot of players there who, it's not like we're banking on 15 players. There are plenty of players around the squad who are like kind of itching to play as well, like Carbery obviously.
Yeah, and a couple of others as well who've put their hand up for selection. We're going to be talking about ESPN College GameDay coming to Ireland for the very first time out of America. It's a big deal, and we'll explain why it's a big deal with a couple of the people responsible for that in about 15 to 20 minutes' time. In the meantime, though, our man in Japan, Eoin Sheahan, has been producing some stellar work, no more so than his much-revered Sushi reviews. It's all thanks to Vodafone team of us. Here's Sheahan's Sushi, episode 3.
You're welcome along to the thing where I review food. I would call it Sheahan's Sushi, but believe it or not, there is some semblance of self-respect behind these eyes. We're here along the canal in Fukuoka. There are rippling sounds being made in the stream behind me, fully expecting the Japanese version of the Loch Ness Monster to jump out any moment. We're waiting for a big typhoon to hit here in Fukuoka, but here I am, still out by the water, still outside, being a danger to myself, reviewing food. I better get knighted for this. There's a massive shopping centre just across the road. Really nice place, nice little stream running through it. Kind of feels like when the lazy river setting is turned on in the Aquadome. So I was walking through it earlier on, enjoying my evening, and then all of a sudden, this big manga show starts. It was absolutely crazy. Lights here, fountains going in every direction. Some of it pretty inappropriate for the kids, I'm not going to lie. Saw a robot get decapitated and blood spurted everywhere. Not quite sure how that works. Even the robots have a human side to them here in Japan. All in all, the whole thing was like an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Set in the Trebalgan Leisure Centre. So I've gone in and out of a couple of Japanese shops this evening to pick up a few little bits and pieces. We're going to review 3 different foodstuffs today. This is called Mr. Garlic and Mrs. Pepper. Sounds like a bag of potatoes. Let's see what Mr. Garlic and Mrs. Pepper is like. I wonder what flavour they are. Packaging it in this. I've not tasted anything like this. This is not a flavour crisp we have at home. Garlic and pepper. And quite frankly, there is a reason why we don't have this flavour at home. They do not mix. You can see that there's relationship problems between Mr. Garlic and Mrs. Pepper here. There's a reason why. I'm actually kind of astonished with what this is. I was expecting like meanies or something like that. I actually thought garlic and pepper were like thieves stealing the flavour of meanies and bringing them to Japan. Not the case. It's appalling, really, and I'm going to give this a score of 25%. The worst crisp I've ever had. Even worse than the Builder's Breakfast Walker crisp they made a couple of years ago. Alright, next we've got this. Looks like some heavy duty stuff. It's either a protein bar or a bit of a core of a nuclear reactor. Let's go right in and have a taste of this. It's biscuit cake. Like, the front of it would suggest that you're about to go intergalactic. But I feel exactly the same. Congratulations on the 25th anniversary, by the way, to this particular chocolate bar. Biscuit cake, it's nice, it's good. If you like biscuit cake, you'll love this sort of thing. Probably melted in my pocket for a little while. Adds to the texture. Humidity is good for a chocolate bar like this. Excellent. Gonna give it a score of 72%. And then finally, for now, we have this. So this guy appears to be the main villain in It Chapter 3. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw it on the shelves, I was scared shitless. I will never sleep properly again, so I have to confront it, I have to open it. Let's see what's going on in here. It's jellies, basically. The jellies don't look particularly good for your well-being. They're tough to get out of the packaging as well. Oh, I was opening up the wrong way. The packaging just sticks to the gummy bear. Maybe, is the packaging edible? Anyway, it's getting eaten now. Yeah, right. You could do a better job of making these yourself if you had a tub of Ribena and an ice cube case. Not great, very flimsy, complete jelly. 18% is what I'm giving these. The Japanese confectionery system need to get their house in order because sorely disappointed with that. The chocolate biscuit bar that looked like it had every element in the periodic table in it, that was nice. But the rest of the stuff, not for me. Terrible crisps, terrible jellies. Japan, get your house in order.
All right. Eoin, Sheahan, good morning to you.
Good morning, lads. What's the crack?
Yeah, so you don't like any of the junk food? You're doing healthy stuff only.
Not great. Yeah, the dinners are absolutely sensational. I haven't had a bad dinner really at all. I'm just trying to think. No, but the confectionery and stuff, not great. Don't. If you're going to destroy your teeth, do it in a more tasty fashion, not Japanese sweets.
Would you have been a man for Yamamori back in Ireland before you became a Japanese food expert?
I've went once or twice, Johnny, and it's pretty good, isn't it? Do you frequent the place?
Yeah, I used to be a fan. Absolutely love the miso soup. I could drink that literally every day. You can go to some of the like some of those shops. Like I don't know what to describe them as. Where
Asian supermarkets.
Yes, Asian supermarkets. Yeah, where you can buy like a wok. You can buy.
They're literally called Asian supermarkets. It's over the title over the door. But go on.
Over some of them, yeah. You just cannot be so. It's such a PC world. I actually don't know what to say anymore.
Well,
but
no, it's not that PC. You just need to be right about stuff. Go on.
Okay. So, so get your package of miso soup, which comes in this kind of what's it, like a paste?
Yeah.
And you literally put in. Are you listening on?
I am.
Yeah. So you literally put in like a teaspoon into your hot water, and then you can put in the kind of the dried seaweed.
Yeah.
And you could make that. It's about £3 for the package. You'll have it all year, and it's absolutely delicious, and it's very good for you. Yeah, yeah.
There you go. You can do all this stuff when you get home. What has the day-to-day food been that we're kind of not seeing, the below the radar stuff that's like not making the cut for this that you have liked?
I had a lot of ramen, although yesterday I was in a restaurant and like there were clearly overstaffed at the time, so there was a lot of people kind of hovering around you, watching your every move. I thought my chopstick technique was on point by the stage, but clearly not. I think the chef was actually staring at me covertly from behind the counter, and he got so frustrated that he actually came out from behind the counter, came over to where I was sitting, took the chopsticks off me, and corrected my technique. So that was, I kind of took a bit of a step back after that. I was like, whoa.
That's fantastic.
That's a massive...
that's the equivalent of you being like a decent footballer in front of like nobody, but then when there's actually a crowd watching it, you just can't function anymore.
It's exactly it. I felt to myself, why have my superpowers deserted me at this most important time? But no, it's a lot of ramen. It's a lot of those sort of soups, as Johnny says, and you could live off the food here pretty easily. It is savage, especially as I say, come dinner time. Like I mean, if you did a head-to-head of Irish breakfast versus Japanese breakfast, I haven't had too many Japanese breakfasts, but I wonder who would win. I'm all ears when it comes to what they actually eat for breakfast.
Fish, I think.
Why have you not had any breakfast? Have you been sleeping in? So nights have been good.
No, I've been having breakfast, but not Japanese breakfast. They've been like continental breakfasts, like including, like I mean, even in like the hotels and stuff. It's been like it has been a lot of hams and cheeses as you'd get like in likes of France. But yeah, there is a good bit of fish. I will say that, Johnny. Like they would actually put down like fish that we would have for a dinner, like little pieces of cod and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess I've just answered my own question there. They have a lot of fish for breakfast, but I haven't indulged in too much.
Does it not make you a bit ashamed though that like you're in one island nation, you'll be going home to an island nation? How little bloody fish we eat over here? Like it's an absolute joke. Like why we don't? It's very good for you as part of a balanced diet. I'm not working for the fish council or whatever, but like why aren't we eating Irish sushi? Why aren't we eating more fish? Why are we all meat?
Very good question, Johnny. I personally eat a lot of fish myself, so I, for one, cannot be swept away with that generalisation. It's true, though. I mean, that was the thing I was most looking forward to before coming here was the food, because I do love fish, and it has delivered on that, except for like the dodgy sushi that I did pick up in that supermarket at the start of that series. Like, I mean, left, right, and centre, you can just get beautiful fish. But to be fair, their meat is also really good as well, although it's just kind of made in a less satisfactory manner in times. Like some people just don't like the fatty nature of it, or the fact that it's bones and stuff quite a bit. And like they're a big fan of chicken cartilage here. Yeah. That is the one thing that I've had, and I've been like, no, thank you. That it just doesn't feel right, the cartilage. Not that I'm not sure there's anybody who think cartilage, that feels so perfect in my mouth. But for me anyway, it's that did not do the trick. That's the one thing where I was like, oh God. I can say generally I do not like this, whereas some of the other things that I haven't liked, it's just been like, okay, that's not done very well, or that's kind of gone off, whereas the actual proper version of that meal will be really good. So all in all, it has been very, very strong, especially the dinners. So I can't complain. I must go to Yamamori a bit more now, Johnny, when I'm home.
I'm sure they'll give you one of those Nando's cards that, you know, that all the footballers get and go, oh, I'm going for a cheeky Nando's, because they get a free lifetime supply.
Nando's, yeah. God.
Right, where are you, Eoin?
I'm at Shofukuji Temple, Jared. This is the oldest Zen temple in all of Japan. It was founded in the year 1195 by a Chinese priest who had brought Zen Buddhism over across the water from China, a religion that kind of became very popular with the samurai class, and then all of a sudden Zen Buddhism became a huge religion here in Japan because of the samurais. So that's where I am. It is the oldest Zen temple, of course. It's been through earthquakes and typhoons down through the years. This is not the original structure. It's been redeveloped many times. It is actually slap bang in the city centre here in Fukuoka, which is kind of astonishing, really. You could be walking down a busy street where there's cars driving everywhere, and then you take one right turn, and then you're in this sort of oasis of tranquility, really, because there is nobody speaking except for me in this whole place. A lot of cats around, a lot of birds around. But yeah, so we're here in the city centre of Fukuoka, the Ireland press conference just taking place down the road. They're based here, of course, until Sunday morning. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about Sunday morning myself, because we can see this typhoon that's about to hit. It looks like it's changing course, or it has changed course, and it is going to changed day as well. We thought that this particular area of Japan in Kyushu might have been under serious threat on Saturday, which is of course game day, but it actually looks like it's doing more of a bendy arch, if that's the technical weather term, and it's heading for Tokyo on Sunday, which is of course when Scotland versus Japan is taking place. Now I'm hoping to go to Japan against Scotland on Sunday, hoping to get a flight up from Fukuoka on Sunday morning, so I'm not sure how that'll work. Like this typhoon, it's remarkable. I've only started to kind of really get my teeth sunk into just how varying degrees of weather reporting can be in this part of the world. Like, it's been called a typhoon, it's been called a super typhoon, it's been referred to as the strongest typhoon that this country has seen all year, it's been referred to as the strongest typhoon the Earth has seen all year. There have been official weather warnings put in place for the likes of Saipan, but as we know in Ireland, things that make it to Saipan don't necessarily make it to Japan, so we could be okay.
Oh, hey. Literally waiting like at least 3 days, I'd say, to bring that one out. Well done, Eoin. I know you're doing well over there, but don't get ahead of your station now.
It's off my head. I didn't plan it at all.
Yeah, God, that'll be interesting. Japan and Scotland, the game that's actually in trouble.
Nil-all draw, yeah. How does a nil-all draw in the Japan-Scotland game suit us? Pretty well, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think we just have to win even without a bonus point. I don't know, but like it would definitely suit us well for sure. We're not going to see any cancellations here, surely not. Like, it's just too important. World Rugby are going to move it geographically or move it by day to ensure that these games go off. And if it means pushing it back a day or two, then so be it, because there are no other games, because it's quarter-final week the following weekend.
Yeah, you're in. I've just mapped where Fukuoka is. You're kind of closer to South Korea than you are to Tokyo at the moment.
Exactly. You can get it on a ferry to South Korea from here, actually. Not something I have a whole part of time to do. Like, you could spend, I would say, 2 weeks in Fukuoka as your base, because there are so many fascinating places that you can go to. Like, you can go to Hiroshima in the north, you can go to Nagasaki in the south. I'm going to go to Oita tomorrow, because I'm going to go watch Wales play Fiji, and there's no Irish media on. And then there's other beautiful little towns all around this island as well. So as I say, this is the island of Kyushu. Fukuoka is the northernmost city in Kyushu. Honshu is the main island, so it kind of connects those two. But then you can also leave the country if you want and go over to South Korea. So plenty of options for people who are here on holidays. And I must say, it is a beautiful city down by the canal where I was doing my Skype from yesterday. It's particularly nice. Lots of nice little restaurants down the sort of brick paths down by the canal. It's a very, very nice city. Has been weather affected, of course, in the past, but it's a city with great history and an area with great history.
Okay. You were obviously at the press conferences this morning. What was the most interesting line? People are just waking up, just joining OTB AM now at 8:56. We had the press conference live from 7:15, but what was the most interesting stuff that you took? We had 2 players and Simon Easterby up. We had Henderson and Joey Carbery. And Easterby, obviously they were talking about the weather, talking about Joey Carbery's decision to kick the ball dead at the end of the Japan game. What else was of interest this morning?
Well, in my opinion, the thing that I took away was that Iain Henderson was chatting about the variation in performance levels over the past couple of weeks. And he said that they almost looked good against Scotland because they prefer playing against teams that play a similar style to Ireland, which is kind of interesting. It's an interesting admission. If you want to take that logic, you can say that perhaps Ireland got caught cold by the style of Japan. But if you want to take it a step further, it probably hammers home just how important it is that we don't play New Zealand in the next round. Because not only are they a better team than South Africa, they also play in a style that just does not suit Ireland whatsoever. As Henderson said, the style of South Africa is a style that Ireland are familiar with, and by extension it would be a style that Ireland would perform better against, according to Iain Henderson. And Simon Easterby, I put it to him as well afterwards in that press conference, what Henderson had said, and he would agree with that then, that there has been a little bit of a challenge getting used to differing styles from the Southern Hemisphere teams especially. So I think that just crystallises how important this whole weekend is from Ireland, not just Saturday. It is so important that Scotland do us a favour after we hold up our end of the bargain. Like, I really do think that while the positivity from the camp has been noticeable over the last couple of weeks, I think the way we talk about it, the way the media will talk about it, and especially the way the camp will talk about it, will change dramatically if this is a game against South Africa rather than a game against New Zealand. We'll be underdogs for both games, and that suits Ireland fine. I think we've got far more of a puncher's chance against South Africa.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Is Robbie Henshaw training in full, expected to play this weekend? What's the story?
Yeah, expected to play this weekend, going very well in training from yesterday, which is important. He trained on Monday, by all accounts. Joey Carbery as well, going very well in training. So I would imagine that Robbie Henshaw will play this weekend. I'd imagine he would probably start. Like, what do you do? Like, I mean, do you have him on the bench, bring him in, or do you start him? Like, Gary Ringrose cannot start another game, so you've really got 3 options in midfield this weekend. I would be starting Robbie Henshaw. I know it's a risk playing against Samoa. Like, you have Battle of Bayonne sort of PTSD almost when you talk about Ireland and you talk about games against teams that don't have a whole lot to play for. You can still pick up tons of injuries, but still, really, what was the point of keeping Robbie Henshaw all this time if he's going to go into a World Cup quarter-final and not be fully fit or not fully sharp? Exactly. I think you play him this weekend.
Okay, any other team selection issues if Joey Carbery is out? Is he starting the game at 10?
That's the other question, really. I think Joey Carbery probably does start. I think because of the fact that Johnny Sexton got hooked so early the last day, it seemed that Joe Schmidt was pretty happy with where he's at. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sexton get some game time, though, this weekend. The only person who's really going to be ruled out for the weekend, I'd imagine, is going to be Jordy Murphy. He won't be officially ruled out, but he's not going to get back fully training until Thursday. It's a day off tomorrow for the team, but if you're only training on a Thursday and starting your training on a Thursday, you are not going to be involved in a Joe Schmidt team, regardless of how light we tend to be in the back row.
So who starts? Peter O'Mahony start again?
Could be, yeah. Peter O'Mahony's position now is an interesting one, because is he somebody who is suffering because of playing too many games, or is he suffering because he needs to play his way into form? Because his form has definitely been a worry so far in this tournament, I think you'd have to say. And Rhys Ruddock, is he slowly putting his hand up for inclusion in the starting 15? I know you're a big Ruddock fan, Ger. Like, you've been mentioning him all the time, even with everybody fit. I think you were almost edging towards him ahead of Jack Conan on the bench when in Ireland's fully fit 23. I think there's a debate now to be had about whether or not Rhys Ruddock could be pushing his way towards the starting 15 if you pick everybody on form. Personally, I think that's probably a step too far. I think Peter O'Mahony is still in there, but does he need to play his way into a bit of form? Like, maybe not. Maybe it is kind of a weekend off for him. It's kind of it's a big dilemma for Joe Schmidt this weekend as to what to do with O'Mahony, for sure, because that is somebody who's had a bit of an issue with his form.
Yeah, it's very hard to know. Maybe Byrne starts in the back row this week, and you don't need to start O'Mahony, but O'Mahony can be on the bench if required, and maybe O'Mahony starts again, and Rhys is on the bench for the last game.
I wouldn't be surprised. Byrne is a good shout, because I would imagine, like we were kind of thinking last week, if Jordy Murphy's injury was bad enough for him to have been sent home, who were you calling up? I suspected they might have actually called up a second row, that Devon Toner or Quinn Rue might have got the call up, and Tyg Byrne would have just become a solid back row option at that point. He wouldn't have even been considered as a second row option at that point. So really, I wouldn't be surprised if the Irish Rugby management are thinking about it in that way, and Tyg Byrne could be given a run out in that position this weekend. I'd be very, very interested to see how he goes in the back row.
All right, Eoin, good stuff. Congratulations on another Sheahan's Sushi that isn't actually called that, but well done.
No, thank you very much. Good to chat to you, lads.
Thanks, Eoin.
Enjoy the rest of your day. That's Eoin Sheahan, our man in Japan.
Got a reply in relation to Aaron Connolly or Moore FC.
FC.
I think my review would even at underage. I think I remember playing them once. Got absolutely battered by them, but they were maroon in those days, and I think they still do. I played for Shivan Rovers, so we played in the Roscommon and District League because we're quite close to the Roscommon border, so geographically we travel a lot less if we didn't have to go to Galway City or the West all the time. But the odd time when we did play the likes of Merview,
you got hammered.
Absolutely demoralising.
Proper schoolboy academies over there.
Yeah, and just coming from the city as well. And they had this kind of, I remember like stopping a lad one time and kind of getting around him. It was like possibly the only good thing I did in the game, and he just pulled me back. Just like, how dare you even contemplate playing at our level? But it was
no free given, no.
We got it free, but okay, he just like, no, you're not doing that. But like Roscommon Town were the big bully boys from our district that would normally beat us quite well. But God Christ, when we went to Galway, then it was very demoralising, because you thought we're not bad footballers here, and then you go and you lose 10-1 or 10-0, and you're just like, that wasn't a nice experience.
Yeah.
It actually genuinely, it's interesting as a kid when that happens to you, how much that knocks you back. Because like,
no point playing anymore.
Well, like I might be okay, but I'm miles behind lads that are just from Galway City, not to mind Dublin.
Yeah. Right, we're going to leave that where it is.
Yeah. That was be showing that, sure.
We're leaving the rugby behind as opposed to Johnny's underage football career. Brian O'Driscoll, here he is on last night's Off the Ball, talking about why Robbie Henshaw is a must start if he's fit.
There's a real confidence. If you think about Irish performances over the last few years as well, when Robbie's been involved, he irrespective of his centre partners, save for maybe one performance here or there. You know, the English game obviously springs to mind with him playing out of position at full back. But, you know, Robbie has been a very, very important player within that team. I think he brings this huge energy. He's got a phenomenal engine on him, but I think he matches a physicality with some really nice subtle skills as well. And I think arguably he's our best defender on the park. He rarely misses tackles, reads things very well. Is a very generous defender with his workload of wanting to try and push his centre on, or you know, if he's playing at 13, pushing his winger on and working and hunting for them on the inside. So he's very much a team player. He's a guy that you'd love to have it beside you in the trenches, and particularly when it comes to the centres splitting, you know, after the first phase, he'll gladly do his workload of getting up and running to the far side, you know, which is a 30, 40, 50 metre sprint to get out to the edges as well. I always loved with players like that were very generous. Gordon Darcy was very generous at doing that, where you try and share that workload, but he's someone that has such a phenomenal engine that he thrives on that. And they're small things, but getting the best defenders in the positions where you have to make the reads.
I would hate to see him lose to a lesser fighter just because he continues to go on too long. You know, I'm not sure what he needs to. I'm sure his financial future is well secured now. His legacy is secured, but it would be tarnished if he continues too long and fights somebody who would never beat him when he was at his best.
And is he working towards an Alvarez the trilogy?
He wants that. Yeah, that's what he longs for. But
it must haunt him that many people feel he won one, if not both of those fights, a draw and then a split decision loss. That must haunt him. That's very hard to stomach.
Especially him, and he chased that fight for a long time. The second fight, I felt Alvarez won, but it's still a time cost.
Okay, but Alvarez will look at this fight on Saturday and say, okay.
Yes, certainly. You know, but yeah, I'd love to see him go have a homecoming in Kazakhstan, have a big event there, fight an easy fight and retire as a legend, because it's only going to end badly for him. When you're training, you focus on the session, then when it's over, you switch off. But now that I'm coaching, it's like I'm thinking about it all the time and looking at old videos of myself and Emmanuel on the pads and listening to old interviews with him and things that he would have said. And yeah, you're just thinking about it and just challenging them. You know, Paddy is a guy who's super talented, and you're going to have to keep him stimulated, because he'd easily get bored and won't put the effort in.
Okay. He needs to be engaged in what you teach him.
Yeah, all the time.
What age is Paddy?
20.
Without heaping pressure on a guy, it sounds like you're saying he's got world title potential down the line.
Yeah, he has. He has more reasons for him to become a world champion than not.
Okay.
But
dodgy coach.
Yeah, the biggest thing he has to overcome is that this is not an amateur sport. It's a lifestyle now, and every decision he makes has to help him towards his professional boxing. You know, outside of the ring as well as inside the ring.
All right, you're welcome back. This week the news broke that College Game Day was coming to Ireland for the very first time. It's the Aer Lingus College Football Classic in August 2020, and here's how ESPN introduced the news.
An unbelievable crowd, unbelievable atmosphere. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody's been waiting for this. First time ever. One of the two spots we've not been. We've never been there. This is a special place and a special time. Oh, wow. Unbelievable. There is no better place for football than right here. College Game Day.
Yeah, the Aer Lingus College Classic is coming next year. It's Navy versus Notre Dame, and I'm delighted to say we've got Pete Durzis and Lee Fitting with us here. Good morning, guys.
Morning, fellas.
How are you doing?
For having us.
How we doing?
This is pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely good.
Why are you doing it?
Well, I tell you what, it is the iconic pregame show of college football, and Lee has the responsibility of it. So, Lee, give the viewers a
I think the question would be, why wouldn't we do it? Right? You get Notre Dame and Navy, two iconic programs in the States, coming to Dublin. when there's a day when there's only a couple college football games and we have time to plan to kick off the season and get to be around the people of Dublin and throw a big party for those folks in late August. It's a no-brainer for us.
A lot of people here won't be entirely familiar with the cultural icon that College Game Day has become. Maybe just explain a little bit about the madness that makes what is essentially a pre-game show into something that is much bigger than just a pre-game show.
That's exactly right. And you saw by the energy in that clip when we announced on Saturday what goes into Game Day. But in essence, it's a 3-hour pre-game show every Saturday morning that leads into the biggest college football games that day. And over the course of time, College Game Day, and we're fortunate to say this, has become an American institution that all of America wakes up to it on Saturday morning. And it's not just X and O's and talking ball, but it's the fun that goes with that. It's a 3-hour party that comes from a different college campus every Saturday morning.
And it has a long history with Notre Dame. I think I'm right in saying the very first one ever was there. Is that right?
Yeah, 1993 in South Bend. First time Game Day ever left the studio. It was a very small show. We did it in front of tens of people. It was Florida State, Notre Dame in 1993.
When did this sign start becoming a thing?
And it took off. You know, we just did this past 2 weeks ago when Game Day was in Nebraska. We got an email from a gentleman that said, listen, I'm going to be in Nebraska on Saturday. And I was the one that revealed the first ever sign on College Game Day. It was like 25 years ago. And there was one guy walking behind the commentators. There was no one else in the crowd. And he held up the sign. And slowly from that point on, it just took off. And it's like social media on steroids now behind the Game Day set.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes it's a bit risque, but they're not censored that much, it seems.
No, we like trying to toe the line there on that, right?
Straddle the border.
Exactly. Why not? Sometimes we may turn an eye to some of the signs. Other times we have to pull a few down. But we're lucky with Game Day that we get a little bit longer of a leash than some other shows.
And people are creative.
People are creative, and we want them to be creative. And that's where we're going to need your guys' help when we come to Dublin next August. We need to get the word out about the signs, and we want the Irish creativity at its best.
It's interesting because like college isn't yet big over here. The NFL is becoming so popular in that everyone loves watching Sunday nights now. They love watching the Red Zone, which is which I presume you have over there.
Oh yeah, Red Zone.
So like my friends would now love going for beers on Saturday night, have a few bets on the NFL, watch the Red Zone, and since I was a kid, I would have gone to a couple of kind of pre-season games. My family would have been Jets fans, and over there. Now I never went to regular season.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah,
you both have suffered a long time with the Jets.
Just end the season.
That's right.
But so since then, I've noticed an explosion of interest. So it'll be interesting to see how it's kind of latched onto over here when you guys come over.
Yeah, I mean, listen, back in the States, there's the NFL, and then right behind it's the college
and it's
game.
Close.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's close, and frankly, I think the college game is a better game for the fan, the viewing experience. Personal opinion, of course, we work in the college space, so we feel pretty strongly about it. But both of them are great games.
Why so for the
very similar?
Why so for the? Is it better than the NFL?
Well, I think the pace of play is better. Personally, the game has more opportunity for drama because the clock stops on first downs and different things. So there's a lot of different strategies that go into the fourth quarter. That the NFL game is pretty much a very copycat league that they're going to get where they want to get to. So long and short, they're both great games, but I think that the fans will be really treated to the college game.
And I think what the folks of Ireland would really appreciate is the pageantry and the passion that surrounds the college game.
Yeah.
Right, you got alumni from all these schools that live and breathe college football, and you get this sense of atmosphere at these college games that you normally may not get at the NFL, and I think that's what helps stand apart.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been watching any of the NFL games, but already empty stadiums in Cincinnati, already empty stadiums in Washington. There's loads very early on in the season, no empty stadiums in most of these college games because the alumni are using it as an opportunity to come and network. The decision to have these games in Ireland obviously is something that you've kind of been keeping an eye on because this isn't the first time, but this is the first of a new cycle of 5. The next announcement of where the 2021 game is going to be held is coming, I think, this week or next week as well. So this is going to be something that maybe could become an annual event for you guys. Is that possible?
Well, there's a lot of contractual issues at work here in terms of who has the game selection and things of that nature. But I think Dublin as a destination for college football to open the season is a given. I think the people that really have made this happen, Anthony Travel, Corporate IE, they really developed the platform and the strategy to really bring the college game to the fans in Dublin.
And how does that feel for you as an American that the start of the game will be outside of America?
I think it's great. It's great. The fact that what this has done is opened up. Traditionally, colleges are usually begin on Labor Day weekend in the U.S. This has provided a new opening date for college football, and so it's
start of September. It is going to start the last week of August.
Yes, right. and it's a benefit to us and to everybody that loves college football.
Like we said earlier, our game and Dublin and the country of Ireland are going to be on center stage that weekend. In essence, it is the only game. It is the lead game that weekend. And, we told our commentators this past Friday, we talked a little bit more about bringing game day here. And again, we have a ton of excitement around that show. I've never seen the guys this excited. They were asking how early they can come over, how late they can stay.
They can come early in the week. We'll put them up. We'll play golf with them.
I think we take tourism a bit for granted in this country because we have so much of it. But I do remember when we had the game in Dublin, and Dublin's quite a small city, so you can't but be in Dublin and appreciate how many people are here. But in terms of promoting Ireland as a destination, this isn't doing any harm at all to an American audience. And I presume your audience is pretty big.
Very big.
Yeah.
College game day will get around 2 million viewers on a given Saturday.
Yeah, view it. National television in the U.S. will come from Dublin for 6.5 straight hours, and that's a huge opportunity. And this is really a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the colleges.
When are you going to tell us whereabouts in the city it's going to come from? Because I know there's lots of competition from different places.
Yeah, it's as soon as we know, we'll let you know. We got here yesterday, and we took the full tour of the inner city.
Yeah.
And our recommendation is we need a place where people congregate. We want to be at a crossroads of the city. Is what we want, right? We want to bring the show to the people and not make the people have to come to the show.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's where we've had luck on college campuses. When we set up in the middle of the dorms or where the people sort of intersect is where we've had the most success. So, we looked around, all sorts of parts of the city, and we just want to be in the busiest section of the city.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I was at the Navy Air Force game at the weekend, and in this part of the world, health and safety prevents any sort of pitch invasion. It's like no, you can't do that. But obviously in college football, it's completely encouraged.
I don't know about encouraged, but it certainly happens with regularity.
It's not encouraged by the administrators.
Right.
Were you part of that?
Yeah, no, we were watching from the far side. So we can actually.
You should have run down. Been in the middle of it.
Yeah. There's some strong rumors that maybe College Green might be a potential.
Where Obama was.
So he came and spoke in the College Green. They closed it down.
That's what we learned yesterday. 2 different presidents spoke there, and we took a look at it yesterday. And we understand that there's some challenges with that location, as there would be in any major city.
Well, traffic is so bad there now. I think by cutting it off, it wouldn't be any worse, really.
We shut down traffic in the middle of New York City. We shut down traffic in the middle of Chicago. I'd like to think we can figure that out. But College Green was unbelievable. You could picture the set in that location.
Right.
It has a lot of history as well, because Trinity College is so old. It's like 16th century, and wasn't it the old Irish Parliament where the Bank of Ireland is
Across
now?
the way,
so that's a proper old part of Dublin. Like literally,
people would show up there, right?
Yeah, show up there,
absolutely.
Our goal is, they're saying 10,000 people, which we will not be satisfied with. We want 15 to 20,000 behind the game day set. But that area was unbelievable. We took a look yesterday, and we can envision it in our head there. But again, there's some challenges like there are in any major city. But
Well, Lee figured out how to shut Times Square down to do the set in New York. We'll figure it out.
College Green is pretty small.
Yeah, but no, that's right. So did you actually shut down Times Square for that?
Yeah.
Right.
I shut it down for, I don't know, between 10 and 12 hours. I think 3 or 4 years ago we did a show there. It was unbelievable.
How are TV TV ratings holding up? Because I know it was a little challenge for the NFL and that people were slightly turning off a bit.
Well, they're really holding up well for the college game. I mean, this year we're having a banner season. We actually began the season with a similar week 0 is what we call the date that this game's going to be played on, and we had Florida play Miami, and that led us into a great college game day at Walt Disney World, and we've been on a very good run. So college ratings are holding up very, very well.
It's a great question, though, in today's world.
Because people are going to, they're streaming more as well, and it's kind of.
But college game day is up double digits year over year in terms of viewership, which is
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Again, there's no secret formula as far as I'm concerned.
The personalities involved.
Well, it's a great show. I mean, Lee's being modest. He's got a tremendous team of people that work on it. They're creative. They bring it to you in different ways, and people tune in. I mean, the audience is 30% women for College Game Day.
Wow.
So that tells you that it's a very broad-based approach that they have.
Sometimes, though, when you've got something that's successful, the key is not changing it. When everybody else outside you is going, what are you going to do different this year? Nothing. I'm going to do exactly the same thing because this is
maybe a couple little tweaks here and there, but we're not looking to change for change's sake. We operate under the motto of there are no rules on College Game Day. Anything goes, and serve the fan. And if we do those two things, usually that equals some fun.
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty good. We're delighted. It's a big deal. Like those of us who know a little bit about American sport kind of understand exactly what a production this is going to be and what a palaver it's going to be, and also being the first city outside of the US to get it is a big deal. So that's a testimony to everybody who's put the fixture together and the size of the fixtures that are coming. These are big games that are coming to Dublin.
It's a definite game. I mean, these types of games have an impact on who plays for the national championship. These types of intersectional matchups, and certainly Notre Dame has that aspiration year in and year out. So this is a significant game.
So who's favourite to win it outright this year?
Oh my goodness, there's probably 6 or 7 that are
7 teams that can win it, but Alabama and Clemson again are at the top of the top of the rankings.
There's our pitch invasion.
I didn't make the point. It was like a pilgrimage to Mecca earlier. It was so much fun. It was
and again, that's the passion that we talked about. That's college football right there in a nutshell.
In fairness, they had all been promised a weekend off of their choosing.
So they may be more excited about that than the win, huh?
Yeah. But only if they won, though. So there was certainly a good old-fashioned bribe for the midshipmen.
See, that's what College Green can look like right there, right? That's a start.
Well, I think they're bringing 2,000 midshipmen over for the game, so it could well do, and they'll all be in their whites.
Yeah, and it'll be fun for people who want to have a bit of fun in the weekend. Bring some of the ladies out to meet these guys, have a bit of fun.
Absolutely.
Why not? Like the old days.
Johnny, the thing about that's going to be really interesting is there's going to be a lot of initiatives for the people of Dublin that may not be great knowledge base of college football, and so there's going to be a lot of activities for the youngsters to participate in. There's also going to be a great outreach to so many U.S. People are working in corporations here in Dublin, so this is kind of a homecoming for them to rally around it, come out with their colors on from all their respective schools. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity here for a lot of different segments of your population.
That's the thing. Over a period of time, this can become more than just a game itself. It becomes a big event.
It's an event, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And an opportunity. There's a huge amount of Irish Americans playing in this as well that just play football full stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They left rugby to come to America to play college football.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to break down a little rugby here this morning.
I was going to get into the Japan match. I don't know.
I got my eyes on Samoa now.
As we all do. We're kind of already looking forward to a quarter-final. It's like almost as if we've learned nothing. Guys, enjoy your time here. How long are you here for?
We're leaving tomorrow. So it's been a quick trip, but Lee's got a plan to come back monthly to make sure it runs smoothly.
Yeah, that's right.
Lee and Pete are recognizable characters around town already.
Thanks for the interest, though.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Great being with you this morning.
Pete, thanks a million for that. And,
Thank you.
That game is in August next year. Tickets are due to go on sale around March for the Irish people. Well, obviously, if you are interested in flying from the States, there are packages available. You can just Google that and you'll get them as well. And we'll see the guys as they come back and forth over the next few months to tell us how we're getting on. And when that announcement about where it's actually going to be made is made, we'll bring it to you as well. Here's Mick McCarthy talking about where Shane Duffy and David McGoldrick are at with their injuries. Have a look.
I'm hopeful. I'm more optimistic than I was. Both the players are more optimistic than they were. Yeah, they'd have to be travelling with us on Thursday to be in contention with for Saturday. You know, if they couldn't fly on Thursday, then saying they're fit on Friday, then I'd have to be saying, "No, it's not. That ain't good enough." But if they flew out on Thursday and they were fit to train on Sunday, then they'd be in contention for Tuesday's game.
He said, I'm looking forward to Premier League pundits talking about me. I'm looking forward to, this is what I've been at. He mentioned the Aguero thing. I was just really impressed by this. It's only a small thing. But he said about Aguero, he was like, I've always been a fan of Aguero. I've studied him since he got the goals against Swansea when he came over. I was like, it's a bit of a weird one to pull out. So I looked it up, and like Aguero's debut for Man City was against Swansea in August 2011. But Connolly's obviously enough of a football fan that he still has that recall in his head that I remember that Swansea game. And maybe it's because when you're kids, like he was 11, and you remember. I bet you we can remember football trivia of the 90s.
On the pitch for BT, he did say, I've been watching Premier League years, forever. So this is the dream, So clearly he's into watching his football as well. Like the Aguero comparison isn't ridiculous. Obviously, it's completely unfair and outlandish to expect he's going to reach those heights. Clearly. But in his movement at times, size, you could just see the size, that squat, the bit of power. How
to survive in a physical league with sort of, he's diminutive. He has to work hard and on his physicality. And this is the thing, he doesn't look like a small lad in a big boy's world. He's not like he has that sort of stubbornness in terms of how he burrows past people. That it does remind you of Duff in terms of how he goes by people.
Yes,
he has that certain style.
Does, yeah.
But I mean, comparisons can be so unfair. But I mean, he scores a goal like the third one the other day, his second one the other day, and you're thinking, how can you not get caught up in this for a minute?
I know. Let's get caught up a little bit, but not too caught up in Aaron Connolly just yet until he's, the end of his career when he's broken Robbie Keane's record. No pressure, Aaron. Then we can get excited.
I just hope things go okay for him injury-wise and all that, because the likes of Obafemi has had his fair share of little niggles along the way. The one thing about Connolly, and if you look at him, he's an. And I've made this point. I was saying to Kenny Cunningham yesterday, if there were one Irish striker or front man you would not want to be playing right now, you look at him, he's so quick. And that's like he's a nightmare, I think, to defend against even at this stage. And he's not yet fully furnished as an actual specimen as well. So it's very exciting.
You won't start in Georgia?
I don't think you will.
No, I think I've been to Georgia the last couple of times. It's not a nice.
You're on mute there, Phil. I think.
So
Phil's hot take was he won't start.
I don't think he'll start either. I think Phil is right.
But why not? Why not?
But
come on, why not?
He was in the squad. He was in the squad a few days ago. Now he's like, it's not a risk to start him. How is he not in the squad? He's not a better player just because he got 2 goals against Spurs. If that makes any sense, he's the same player as he was last week. It's just that he played against Spurs. We're probably not in a great place at the moment.
Look, this is the manager who told a then 4-time Premier League champion Dennis Irwin to prove himself to him.
I do remember that. Prove me wrong.
Trying to get back in the game here, lads.
Phil's struggling.
Phil's having mic issues.
Yeah. He's fixed now, I think.
I'm fixed. Am I back? They tried to censor me.
You're back, baby.
No, I just think what you do is you basically sit in, and it's not nice, but Georgia then tend to tire in the last 20 minutes. That's when you unleash Connolly, and his pace can cause serious problems. Whereas what happened the last time is we scored early. Shane Duffy scored after a few minutes. We sat back. It was inevitable that Georgia were going to equalise, and we were an absolute mess for the last half an hour. At one stage, Robbie Brady was playing in central midfield with McGeady, I think it was, and I could see them trying to communicate to each other, saying, like, what are we meant to be doing?
Perfect scenario, right, where we score in the first half, probably from a set piece, something like that. It's 1-0 with maybe half an hour to go. Georgia are coming out of it now. And people have this, bring them on if it's 0-0 with 20 minutes to go, which you might, but more so, bring them on if we're 1-0 up, because Georgia are going to be more open to a counter-attack.
Did you read the Kimmage piece of the weekend with Big Mick?
I didn't.
So it's interesting, and he's talking about a couple of games where Ipswich were up into stoppage time, and Mick's saying, my thought is like, get it out of there, hoof it, don't be trying to score. And of course, we knew better, we tried to score. We went up the other end of the field, lost the ball, they come down. It was Norwich.
It was the Norwich game, because he never beat Norwich as Ipswich manager.
But here's the thing, the right answer is not.
That game,
The right answer is not hoof it.
No.
The right answer is to keep the ball for a little bit and take the sting out of the game.
And I've no problem if Aaron Connolly comes on and wants to run the ball into the corner.
But like,
but Aaron will have a problem with that. 'Cause that's not what Aaron
Nick still
does,
thinks
like.
he was right.
Yeah, but in fair, I like Mick as a character. I think he's very
I do too,
honest.
I do
but he's
too.
a conservative enough coach at this stage. He's
Awfully
probably not going to
conservative.
change at this stage of his
Pragmatic,
life.
I'd say.
He's not pragmatic, he's conservative. It's not pragmatic to kick the ball away to the opposition. It's the opposite of pragmatism. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
it really isn't.
Yeah, but sometimes you want to get the ball out of there so you can reset your shape.
I mean, okay, but like that's not what he was thinking.
Because, like, I remember that game in particular where they tried to score a second goal and they conceded, and that was the game where when they scored, he kind of gave it to the Ipswich fans. But
you remember? I remember that, yeah, because I was in Preston actually watching some Preston game that weekend. But do you remember Brian Kerr's era as well? Like we would go, remember in Israel when we basically were ridiculously defensive after going ahead. The way to defend the lead is not to sit back. The way to defend the lead is to exploit the opposition who have to come out more because they need to get on the ball more.
Have you got a bulletin? Sorry, we've got a minute left here.
I'm going to race through these.
Aaron Connolly starting for Ireland.
Now the draws for next summer's Munster and Connacht Football Championships have been made. Kerry and Cork are going to meet in the semi-finals of the Munster Championship next summer, which means on the other side of the draw, Waterford will play Limerick in the first quarter-final. Clare will take on Tipperary. The winners of those quarters then will meet in the last four, so they avoid Kerry and Cork. In Connacht, Mayo face Leitrim in the quarter-finals. The winner of that game will play London or defending champions Roscommon. Galway, we know, are away to New York in the opening game. The winner of that one will face Sligo in the last four. Vera Pauw's first game in charge of the Republic of Ireland women's team tonight is in Tala. The girls in green take on Ukraine in Group I, looking to build on the 2-0 win over Montenegro last month. Ukraine have lost both their qualifiers, both 8-0 defeats to top seeds Germany, but Ukraine are second seeds in this group. Kick-off at Tala Stadium is 7:30, a record crowd expected. The current record for a women's qualifier here is 4,000, so they are hoping to get the capacity 8,000. We should find out shortly how Shane Duffy and David McGoldrick are doing ahead of Saturday's Euro 2020 qualifier away to Georgia. Mick McCarthy due to give his press conference. The training will be later. One game tonight in the SSE Electricity Premier Division, Waterford and Sligo at the RSC from 7:45. South Africa and Canada meet at the Rugby World Cup this morning at 11:15. Disappointment for Ciara Smith and Michaela Walsh, both beaten in their last 16 bouts at the World Elite Boxing Championships in Siberia. Two more boxers in action tomorrow. County Down's Rhys McClenaghan has qualified for the Olympics next year because he is in the final at the World Gymnastics Championships in Stuttgart. He booked his place in the final on Sunday, had to wait until last night for the conclusion of the 8 qualifying rounds before he got confirmation. By the way, he's the first Irish gymnast to make a world final. Andy Murray is going to return to Grand Slam tennis action, singles action at the Australian Open next year. And in the darts last night at the PDC World Grand Prix at City West, first round wins for Rob Cross, Peter Wright and Dave Chisnell. 2007 Chizzy Rascal. Yeah, Chizzy beat Gerwyn Price, and 2017 champion Daryl Gurney was beaten. Former world champion Adrian Lewis also crashed out tonight. Mighty Mike, MVG, Michael Van Gerwen among those in action.
Mighty Mike?
Yeah.
Is it Mighty Mike?
Yeah.
Mighty Michael Van Gerwen.
Yeah. Named after the porn star.
Is that not Magic Mike?
Oh, sorry.
Any other notable nicknames tonight?
James Wade, James the Machine.
Gary Anderson?
Gary Anderson, the Flying Scotsman. Yeah.
All right, that's us. Thanks, lads.
No worries.
I think we need more Americans on the show. There's so much energy about them.
Positivity.
We're just gonna get out of bed, like they're just like, you know. I know they've had a lot of coffee, but they're just so.
They've been up since
they're
6.
also jet lagged, and you know, they were probably out last night.
Well,
and still they outperformed us.
They did. Comfortably.
I'm jet lagged, that's my excuse. 9:31 this morning, that's it from us on OTB AM. If you missed anything, catch the podcast back on offtheball.com/podcasts. Or the best place, of course, to listen to OTB Sports Radio is the Go Loud app. You can check out our YouTube channel and subscribe there. Tonight on Off the Ball from 7, football with Dan McDonald, the latest in Irish Rugby and much more. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7:30. Brezzy, the Blizzards lead singer and former Leinster Rugby player, is with us in studio in place of Johnny, so we're a massive upgrade on tomorrow. Just a nod from him. Good luck.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio. OTB